When the blood mist finally dispersed, only the bones and the soul of the figure in the celestial robe remained. "You've declared war on the heavenly court," the soul of the celestial robed man roared. "These are the rules of the Mirage Tide's heaven," the androgynous middle-aged man said calmly. "No one enters or leaves without the permission of the Lord of Death. It makes no difference who you are." With a wave of his hand, a chain of black iron shot out, wrapping around the soul and dragging it down. "Take him to hell," the man said faintly. Several skeletal figures emerged, ignoring the celestial-robed man's furious struggles, and hauled him away. The middle-aged man's figure vanished into the depths of Starhaven's stronghold, and peace once again returned to the Mirage Tide's heaven. More than a month later, Su Zimo opened his eyes for meditation, exhaling a long breath of turbid air. He still felt weak, but much better than before. Entering his true fate world, he saw the Dragon Maiden still imprisoned within the myriad beasts' realm. With her sealed there, she had no chance to escape. When she saw him, she asked, "What did you do?" "What do you mean?" Su Zimo replied, "What's behind that door?" "What did you all do?" she repeated. "So, you know quite a bit," Su Zimo said. "But before asking others, shouldn't you tell me what you know first?" The Dragon Maiden stayed silent, refusing to answer. Su Zimo shook his head slightly and walked deeper into the tribe. "My lord." Paimon and the others came forward to greet him. "Everyone unharmed?" Su Zimo asked. "A saint's sovereign cannot truly die. As long as our life-death souls remain intact, you needn't worry about us," Paimon said with a grin. "And the Red Blade Bull Demon?" Su Zimo asked. Paimon pointed with his right hand. The Red Blade Bull Demon lay unconscious on the ground, the shattered monument beside him. "What's his condition?" Su Zimo asked. "His soul has been severely damaged and has fallen into a deep coma. It won't be easy for him to wake," Paimon answered. "Any way to help him?" Su Zimo asked. "There are two," Paimon replied. "The first, find his life-death soul and awaken it. But every saint sovereign's life-death soul is hidden and sacred. Only the person himself knows where it lies. We can't find it. The second way," he continued, "is to find the Nine Nether Godgrass. With its power, we could awaken him externally." "That's right," Sevenface added. "The old bull's awakening is important. During our long slumber, who knows what's happened to the ancient demon race in the Nine Heavens? He might know things we don't." Su Zimo nodded slightly. Finding the Nine Nether Godgrass would have to be placed on the agenda. But for now, his priority was to fuse Shadow Tyrant with the Grand Pivot Godsword. He walked to the Dragon Maiden and raised his hand, summoning the flame he had obtained earlier, the Fire of Jerome. "What do you think of this flame?" he asked. "So you really destroyed that place?" the Dragon Maiden said, narrowing her eyes. "Aren't you afraid the ancient gods will come for revenge? With both the divine flame and the deep-sea black ice in hand, let's forge the weapon first," Su Zimo said calmly. "As for the rest, I have my own plans." The Dragon Maiden thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. She walked to an open space and took the flame of Zhurong in her palm, merging it briefly with her own spirit energy. Her whole body ignited in crimson flames. Above her, Shadow Tyrant and the Grand Pivot Godsword floated, as she began to carefully control the temperature of the fire, gradually melting both weapons. Su Zimo turned to Paimon and ordered, "During the forging process, no one is to disturb her or even approach." The fusion of two divine weapons was not as simple as melting and reforging. It required the complete integration of their weapon runes and souls, achieving a power greater than the sum of its parts. The Dragon Maiden truly was a rare mastersmith. With one hand, she controlled the flames. With the other, she traced formations in the air. In moments, several formations spread beneath her feet: the Grand Spirit Energy Gathering Formation, the Flow Returning Formation, the Cloud Locking Formation, and the Infinite Heaven Derivation Formation, all of which strengthened the forging process. Spirit energy gathered rapidly from every direction. The flame of Zhurong blazed higher, and Shadow Tyrant melted into a pool of black liquid. Its blade aura still surged, the weapon marks glowing like runes of defiance. From the molten darkness, the spirit of Shadow Tyrant manifested, a curved blade phantom, roaring silently. Meanwhile, the Grand Pivot Godsword melted into golden liquid. Sword Intent shot upward, its spirit's cry echoing in the air, splitting the void in half, one side filled with knife intent, the other with sword intent. The clash between them grew increasingly fierce. Even the sky itself fractured, torn by the sharpness of their auras. The Dragon Maiden's face turned pale. She was burning through her strength fast. Clapping her hands together, she forced both weapons to respond, their melted forms surging toward each other. At the instant of contact, an explosion of intertwined knife and sword intent filled the air. The two powers struggled and merged, piece by piece. Suzumo couldn't fully understand the forging method she was using. Her spirit energy was intertwined with countless weapon marks and formations, stabilizing the volatile fusion. The deep-sea black ice hovered above, balancing the heat. Whenever the fire flared too violently, the black ice cooled it instantly. This would clearly be a long process. Suzumo left Paimon and Sevenface to guard the area and exited his True Fate world. The North Sea had finally calmed after the recent upheaval. Suzumo leaped from the water, finding Xie Chonglu already waiting for him. "It's done," Xie asked. Suzumo nodded slightly. "Have you heard of the Nine Nether Godgrass? The one that restores souls?" Xie asked. Suzumo nodded again. The soul and the divine spirit were different things. The soul was difficult to damage unless one used it directly, while the divine spirit of a saint sovereign, even if destroyed, would not bring true death. That was the strength of a saint sovereign. "I do know of one place," Xie said after thinking for a moment. "Where?" Suzumo asked immediately. "The Celestial Sage Academy," Xie replied. "When I was young, I studied there. Beneath it lies the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss, and because of that seal, the Academy produces many soul-restoring elixirs. I've seen the Nine Nether Godgrass there several times." "Then that's our next destination," Suzumo said. "Is it far from here?" "Follow the source of the North Sea," Xie explained. "The Academy lies at the junction between the Four Regions and the Azure Frontier." Suzumo nodded. Summoning chaos, he set off toward the Celestial Sage Academy. He sat cross-legged on Chaos's back, continuing to comprehend the ancient path of Zhurong he had recently acquired. The ancient teachings were profound and abstruse. The deeper his understanding, the more complex they became. Even for him, it was more contemplation than mastery. Chaos glided over the calm sea, its vast wings carrying them swiftly toward the western horizon. The Celestial Sage Academy was located atop Celestial Sage Mountain. It stood alone between two great domains, with a long history and a powerful background. Throughout the mortal ascension heaven, the Academy's name carried weight, but few people willingly came here. Everyone knew that beneath it lay the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss, a place as dangerous as a dragon's den or a tiger's lair. After Chaos had flown without rest for over a month, the two finally left the North Sea and saw the faint outline of Celestial Sage Mountain on the horizon, its towering silhouette shrouded in distant mist. For millions of miles around, there was nothing but wilderness. No life stirred, only that single mountain rising proudly toward the heavens. "We've arrived," Xie Chonglu said. "This academy sure looks desolate," Suzumo remarked with a smile. "As expected," Xie replied. "But don't underestimate it. The academy's backing is powerful, so much so that few dare to provoke it." "What kind of backing?" Suzumo asked curiously. "You've heard of the ghost god Heaven? One of the 9 heavens, right?" Xie asked. Suzumo nodded slightly. "In the ghost god Heaven, there are 9 great ghost gods. Among them, the first, called Kuei, was once the most sinister and malevolent of all. Children cried at the mention of his name. Even the most ruthless of villains trembled in fear and dared not offend him. But 3 million years ago, Kuei suddenly changed. To atone for his countless sins, he founded the ghost god Collegium. The Celestial Sage Academy is its only branch. Was that ghost god really that strong? Su Zimo asked. They say the 9 ghost gods were being second only to the end of calamities itself, Xia replied. But I've never been to the ghost god heaven myself, so I can't say for sure. As they spoke, chaos descended slowly before Celestial Sage Mountain and then returned to the divine continent. Su Zimo looked up. The vast mountain was shrouded in a faint gray mist. The mountain stretched so high he could not see the peak. Its ridges rose and twisted endlessly, as if propping up the heavens themselves, wrapped in clouds and fog. Beside the path stood a massive stone monument inscribed with words. Celestial Sage Mountain height, 8,888,800 meters. Total steps, 18,600,000. Among all the mountains of the mortal ascension heaven, this one stands supreme. Reading it, Su Zimo glanced upward again. The endless staircase stretched toward the clouds. Anyone with a fear of heights or confined spaces would faint at the sight. Let's go. We'll see what's at the top, Su Zimo said. The two shot up the mountain steps, sometimes leaping like great rock birds, sometimes stepping lightly through the air. Their speed was astonishing. Before long, they reached halfway up the mountain, where a bustling town came into view. This is Azure Dragon Town, Xia Chonglu explained, clearly familiar with the place from his student days. If we want to enter the academy, we have to register here first. Don't be fooled by its small size. It's full of hidden experts. Even emperors have been known to pass through. You were once a student here. Can't you just walk in? Su Zimo asked. For former students, yes, Xia replied. We only need to register our identity tokens. But you'll have to officially apply to join the Celestial Sage Academy. Strangers aren't allowed to enter otherwise. The two stepped through the town gates. Though called a town, it was larger than many cities. Under a large sign carved in the shape of a coiling azure dragon, the streets were vibrant with color and noise. Sky Lake flowers, finest quality. Don't miss out. Ghost wood logs, tenfold purity. Come and see for yourself. Street vendors shouted from every corner. But Su Zimo noticed that despite their humble appearances, these sellers were anything but ordinary. Their bodies radiated powerful spirit energy. The Celestial Sage Academy keeps the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss open, Xia explained. That's why this place is rich in soul-related herbs. People from outside risk their lives to gather them. The trade is thriving. The only problem is, it's extremely dangerous. When the abyss erupts, almost no one returns alive. Su Zimo nodded slightly. So, how do I join the academy? Before Xia could answer, a figure came running from ahead and crashed hard into Su Zimo. Ah! A startled cry followed. Su Zimo didn't move an inch, but the figure fell to the ground. It was a young woman, though she was dressed as a boy. Su Zimo recognized it immediately despite the disguise. Her face was smeared with black charcoal, and her hair was neatly tied into a small braid. I'm sorry, she said quickly, before running off in panic. Catch her! Someone shouted from behind. A group of servants came charging down the street, weapons in hand. There she is, one of them yelled. It seemed like a trivial incident, but Xia Chonglio's expression grew serious. Did you feel that? He asked quietly. Feel what? Su Zimo frowned. Xia slowly drew his sword. The blade trembled in his hand, its tip pointing in the direction the girl had fled. My sword only reacts like this in 2 situations, Xia said gravely. The first is when it senses someone whose sword intent surpasses mine. And the second? Su Zimo asked. When it encounters one of the 10 God King physiques, the Eternal Sword God King physique, Xia replied solemnly. The 10 God King physiques, Su Zimo murmured. He had heard of them long ago, but never seen one with his own eyes. You mean that girl? He asked. Let's follow and find out, Xia suggested. Su Zimo smirked. You're interested in her physique, aren't you? Every swordsman would be, Xia replied. Effort matters, yes, but some people are simply born as heaven's chosen. Those with the Eternal Sword God King physique are born understanding the Eternal Sword God King intent. They don't even need to train. Their sword heart and sword soul awaken on their own. They're 1 in a billion. Then let's go see for ourselves, Suzumo said. I've always wanted to witness one of these legendary physiques. The two followed behind the group of pursuers. The young woman darted through the streets of Azure Dragon Town, heading down toward the base of Celestial Sage Mountain. But perhaps she was too frantic, her foot slipped, and she tumbled down the stone steps. She rolled several times before crashing hard into a boulder. She tried to stand, but her right leg was clearly broken. Even standing was a struggle. Run! Why aren't you running anymore? One of the servants sneered as they caught up. You killed the young master of the Lu clan. Hurry and come with us to confess your crime. It wasn't me. Don't come any closer. I don't want to hurt you, the girl said frantically, retreating step by step, her face pale with fear. Hurt us? Someone laughed mockingly. Little girl, that's quite an arrogant tone you've got. Enough talking, the leader said coldly. Grab her and bring her back. Let the Lord handle it. The group closed in from all sides. Terrified, the girl curled up tightly, trembling. One of the men reached out to grab her collar. In that instant, a surge of powerful sword intent burst out from the girl's body, slicing the man's right hand into fragments. Ah! The man screamed in agony, collapsing to the ground. What did you do to him? The leader shouted, glaring fiercely at the girl. I told you not to come closer. I don't want to hurt you, but I can't control it, she cried, panic rising in her voice. Her plea went unheard. The leader waved his hand. Everyone attack! Take her down! The men lunged forward again. The girl continued to back away. If one looked closely, they would see that her pupils had turned into the shape of swords, radiating an immortal, indestructible aura. She was utterly overwhelmed by fear. Her long black hair suddenly hardened, transforming into countless sharp blades. The frail-looking body became like an unsheathed divine sword, endless sword intent swirling violently around her. The air itself trembled. The steps beneath her feet shattered into perfect square blocks, and the men surrounding her were torn apart by invisible blades of energy. The sound of flesh being sliced and screams filled the air, a nightmarish chorus that echoed through the mountains. When the sword intent finally dissipated, the girl regained her senses. Bodies lay scattered everywhere, the ground drenched in blood. She looked around in horror, shaking her head over and over. I didn't mean to. I really didn't mean to. At that moment, footsteps approached. Suzumo and Xie Chonglu emerged from the town of Azure Dragon. The girl saw them and bolted downhill in terror. But Xie Chonglu raised his hand, his sword intent solidifying into a barrier that blocked her path. I mean you no harm, Xie said gently. Don't be afraid. You're here to catch me too? The girl asked, trembling. You possess the Eternal Sword God King physique, but cannot control its power, Xie said calmly. I only wish to take a look. Eternal Sword God King physique? What's that? She asked warily, both curious and defensive. It means you have a body of extraordinary power, Xie explained. Something far beyond ordinary mortals. I can help you control it, so you won't hurt anyone again. Why would you help me? The girl asked. Let's just say, Xie replied with a faint smile. I don't like seeing a piece of flawless jade gather dust. Can I trust you? She asked, her wide eyes glimmering with uncertainty. That's for you to decide, Xie answered. The girl hesitated briefly, then nodded firmly. I trust you, Xie smiled. Raising his right hand, he gathered countless threads of sword energy around them. The sword aura was not sharp this time, it was protective, calm. He gently pointed a finger forward, and the energy surged toward the girl's brow. Her Eternal Sword God King physique reacted instantly, trying to resist. But Xie's sword intent was far stronger, easily suppressing the rebellious power. When all the energy had entered her forehead, the girl slowly opened her eyes again. It's done, Xie said. I've temporarily sealed your sword body. The seal will last at most 10 years. But as your physique grows on its own, it will eventually break free. Is there any way for me to control it completely? The girl asked. You've never cultivated before, have you? Xia asked. The girl shook her head. When your cultivation reaches a certain level, Xia said, you'll not only control the eternal sword God King physique, you'll make it even stronger. Then can you teach me? She asked hopefully. Xia shook his head slightly. You're not suited to follow me. Come on, he said to Su Zimo. Let's go find the Celestial Sage Academy. They took a few steps, but soon realized the girl was silently following behind them. When they walked, she walked. When they stopped, she stopped. You should find another teacher, Xia told her. Someone better suited to guide you. I don't trust anyone else, she said stubbornly, shaking her head. I only trust you. Looks like you've picked up a troublesome follower, Su Zimo said with a chuckle. My only intention was to keep a God King physique from falling into ruin. Xia sighed helplessly. Come on, ignore her. The two of them returned to Azure Dragon Town. Following the bustling main street under Xia's lead, they stopped before a grand hall. The building had no sign or name, but two young men in white robes stood guard at the entrance. Xia retrieved a white jade token from his storage ring, smiling faintly. I thought I'd never return here again. This token has become more of a keepsake than anything. He handed the token to the guards. Please report, former student of the class number 7000 of Celestial Sage Academy, Xia Chonglu, requests re-entry. Please wait, senior brother. One of the young men said politely, then hurried inside. Moments later, an excited voice echoed from within. Chonglu? Where is Chonglu? Following the guard, a middle-aged man quickly came out. Teacher Lu, what are you doing here? Xia said in surprise. You still remember me, huh? It's been centuries since you left. The man laughed. This time I've come seeking help, Xia said with a smile. I hope you won't mind, Teacher Lu. Let me introduce you. This is my friend and benefactor, Su Zimo. And this is my teacher from the academy, Lu Chongyu. Su Zimo and Lu Chongyu exchanged polite smiles and nodded. I knew you wouldn't come back without a reason, Lu said with amusement. Out with it, what do you need? I'm looking for a 9 nether godgrass, Xia said honestly. Lu hesitated for a moment. What's wrong? Xia asked quickly. If you'd come a few years earlier, it would have been easy, Lu sighed. But lately, he frowned. The Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss has been in constant upheaval. The Academy is struggling to keep it suppressed. The 9 nether godgrass grows deep within the abyss, and no one dares venture that far anymore. It's become nearly impossible to find. What if we gather it ourselves? Su Zimo asked. I'll have to discuss that with the Chancellor, Lu replied seriously. The Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss is too important to act on impulsively. That's understandable, Su Zimo nodded. We'll stay here in Azure Dragon Town for a few days. Let us know once you have an answer. Lu nodded. Chonglu, when you have time, visit the academy. Many of your old friends are still here. After parting ways with Lu Chongyu, the two wandered along the streets of Azure Dragon Town. Su Zimo smiled. Do you think your Chancellor will agree? What worries me more is the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss, Xia Chonglu replied. Whether he agrees or not, you were planning to go in anyway, weren't you? Su Zimo nodded slightly. What exactly is the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss? You can think of it as the evil half of the ghost god Kuei, Xia explained. What do you mean? Su Zimo asked, confused. I told you before, the Celestial Sage Academy is a branch of the Ghost God Collegium, Xia said. The Ghost God Collegium was founded by Ghost God Kuei himself. In the past, when Kuei turned from evil to good, he split his own nature in two, his good and his evil, and then cut away his evil self. But no one expected that his evil wouldn't die. Instead, it escaped into the mortal ascension heaven, wreaking havoc. Later, when the Ghost God Collegium established the Celestial Sage branch, they suppressed that evil within the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss. Is that evil will really so powerful? Su Zimo asked. Why not just destroy it completely? I don't know. Xie shook his head. That kind of secret is far above my level. That girl is still following you, Su Zimo said, glancing behind them with a smirk. I was actually thinking about taking her as a disciple, Xie said after a moment of silence. Having a disciple with an eternal sword God King physique would be quite an honor for any master. But I never take disciples lightly. What matters most to me is character. So you're testing her, Su Zimo said. You could put it that way, Xie replied. Tomorrow I'll visit the Celestial Sage Academy, see some of my old fellow students and talk to the Chancellor. Su Zimo nodded in agreement, offering no objection. They spent half the day wandering around Azure Dragon Town. The town was built halfway up Celestial Sage Mountain, yet it was as prosperous as any great city. Still, Su Zimo could sense something unsettling. Deep beneath the mountain, an evil energy seemed to be seeping upward. Though something was suppressing it, the presence was unmistakable. By afternoon, the streets began to quiet down. The two found an inn and rented 2 rooms. The girl, however, remained silently at the inn's entrance. Su Zimo didn't interfere. This was Xie's business, and clearly he already had a plan. Back in his room, Su Zimo began cultivating the technique Zhurong's inquiry. Waves of fire elemental power flowed through him. This secret art was vast in scope. It involved not just elemental mastery but also laws and principles. In the ancient era, the primordial gods were the first to cultivate. They were like the pioneers of the desolate world, creating their own paths from nothing. There were no established methods then. They carved out their own. The so-called path of inquiry was exactly that, seeking the Tao where no one had walked before. He trained throughout the entire night, yet felt as if he were just a lone boat drifting in an endless ocean. The depth of this art was truly immeasurable. Outside the inn, a sudden commotion broke his concentration. Su Zimo stepped out of his room just as Xie Chonglu emerged from the one next door. What's going on? Xie asked. Su Zimo leaned over the second-floor railing and looked down. A crowd had gathered at the inn's entrance, broad-shouldered men glaring fiercely at someone in the middle. Master Lu, what should we do with this girl? I say a life for a life. She killed young Master Lu. She should pay with her own. The crowd roared. She can't be allowed to die so easily, another voice said darkly. When Su Zimo and Xie came downstairs, they saw the girl huddled in a corner, trembling, surrounded by angry townsfolk. What's going on? Xie asked, stepping forward to stand in front of the girl. He frowned. A group of men bullying one frightened girl. Is that something to be proud of? Who are you? One of them barked. Best keep your nose out of this. Then a middle-aged man gestured for silence, and the crowd immediately quieted. This girl killed my son, the man said coldly, looking Xie over. Isn't a murderer supposed to pay with her life? I didn't mean to, the girl stammered. Your son tried to violate me. I panicked and lost control of the sword energy in my body. It killed him. I didn't mean for it to happen. She didn't mean to kill him, Xie said calmly. But your son was the one who started it. He brought this on himself. This matter ends here. Who do you think you are? Someone shouted. Master Lu. Don't waste words with him. Just take them both down. One of the Lu retainers said. The middle-aged man, Master Lu, narrowed his eyes slightly. Then he said, The world is small, traveler. We'll meet again. Fine. I'll remember this. With that, he turned and walked away. The crowd looked at one another, hesitant, but eventually followed him. They're gone, Xie said, turning to the girl. What's your name? Chong Xiang, she replied softly. Master, does this mean you'll teach me? She asked eagerly. You can't call me that yet, Xie said. I'll teach you for 3 days. If in that time you can't comprehend the sword Tao, then even the best physique in the world would only shame my name. All right, Chong Xiang nodded excitedly. Come on then, let's eat, Xie said, walking back into the inn. Chong Xiang, where's your family? Su Zimo asked. In truth, the 10 God King physiques of the 9 heavens were very different from the 100 battle physiques of the primordial heartlands. The 100 battle physiques were unique to individuals. Whoever obtained one owned it. But the 10 God King physiques could be inherited. If an ancestor had once awakened one of the God King physiques, their descendants could carry that same bloodline. That meant most bearers of God King physiques came from powerful families. A girl like Chong Xiong, born with one but living as a stray, was almost unheard of. I don't know, she said, shaking her head. I've been an orphan since I was little. I grew up in a small town, living off the charity of others. But not long ago, monsters attacked and killed everyone there. I was the only one left. That's when the Lu clan's young master found me. He took me to Azure Dragon Town. As she spoke, the 2 men began to understand the tragic life she'd endured. From now on, you'll learn the sword from me, Xie said. Only strength can protect everything you care about. The inn boy brought out steaming plates of food. Chong Xiong, clearly starving, devoured them with little regard for manners. After watching her for a while, Xie turned to Su Zimo. Once we finish eating, let's head to the Celestial Sage Academy. Will I be allowed in? Su Zimo asked. I'll speak with Teacher Lu, Xie said. He'll think of something. After a simple meal, the 3 made their way back to the grand hall they had visited the day before. The gatekeepers recognized Xie Changlu and didn't stop them, allowing the group to enter freely. The great hall was vast and spacious. Lu Changyu was holding a map, seemingly studying something. Seeing Su Zimo and the others enter, he smiled and said, I've already sent someone to deliver the message back to the academy. In a few days, the chancellor should respond. What are you busy with, teacher? Xie Changlu asked as he walked forward. The last time Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss rioted, many night ghosts escaped. Although we killed quite a few, some still managed to hide. Lu Changyu explained. Then his eyes lit up suddenly and he suggested, You 2 could help us capture the night ghosts. That way, it'll be easier for you to enter the academy and retrieve the 9 nether godgrass. Does Teacher Lu have any leads? Xie Changlu glanced at Su Zimo, and the 2 exchanged looks before he asked. Come look at the map. Lu Changyu spread the map before them. It was a full map of Celestial Sage Mountain. It showed in detail both the Celestial Sage Academy and Azure Dragon Town, with several red marks scattered across it. These night ghosts are extremely cunning. They don't act during the day, only at night. Lu Changyu said, We've been investigating for over 2 months, and finally uncovered all their hiding spots. Now it's time to catch them all in one sweep. Lu Manor, Su Zimo said with interest, noticing one of the marks on the map. Exactly. Lu Manor is the largest of their dens, Lu Changyu said. In Azure Dragon Town, the Lu clan has the oldest history. Lord Lu is well connected and quite influential here. When do we move? Xie Changlu asked. Tonight, Lu Changyu replied. Keep this quiet. We'll wait and trap them. The Celestial Sage Academy treated this matter with great seriousness. In addition to Lu Changyu leading the operation, 8 of the Academy's most renowned students had been brought along. It would also serve as a training exercise for them. By afternoon, the 8 students had arrived in Azure Dragon Town. Lu Changyu gave them a brief rundown of the situation. That night, Azure Dragon Town was unusually quiet. The darkness was heavier than expected. Over a dozen figures dashed out of the great hall, leaping across rooftops like shadows in the night. At Lu Manor, the air was somber. Since the young master's death, the entire estate was draped in white lanterns. After finishing family matters, Lord Lu returned to his room. The moment he stepped inside, the light went out. A wisp of black smoke filled the air. What do you want with us? A hoarse voice asked coldly. I need you to kill a few people, Lord Lu said. You should know, the hoarse voice replied, that the situation is tense. Everything must serve the goal of breaking the seal and releasing Lord Ghost God. I know, Lord Lu said darkly, but the death of a son cannot go unavenged. Who do you want dead? The voice paused briefly. I had portraits drawn. They should still be in Azure Dragon Town, Lord Lu said. By dawn tomorrow you'll see their corpses. The voice echoed, fading away into silence. Outside Lu Manor, everything was still, save for the faint chirping of unseen insects. We can storm the place directly, Xie Chonglu said. What if they don't come out? No. Lu Chongyu shook his head. The Lu clan has great influence in Azure Dragon Town. Without evidence, we can't act rashly. The academy is already chaotic enough. We can't let the town fall into disorder too. There's movement, Xie Chonglu suddenly said. At Lu Manor's front gate, ripples appeared in the air, and a strand of black smoke flashed past. Go! Lu Chongyu barked, leaping down from the rooftop. He swept his hand through the air, detonating the void. 3 dark figures were blown out of hiding. It's an ambush! Run! The hoarse voice cried out in panic. The 3 shadows split up, fleeing in different directions. The 8 academy students had been stationed at the back gate of Lu Manor, while Su Zimo and the others guarded the front. The 3 escapees didn't get far. Su Zimo and his companions suppressed them with sheer power. Do you want them alive or dead? Su Zimo asked. Either is fine, Lu Chongyu replied tersely. Su Zimo flicked his finger, releasing a surge of power that obliterated the 3 shadows completely. To the back gate, Lu Chongyu ordered, slightly taken aback by Su Zimo's strength before hurrying off. When the 3 reached the back gate, the 8 academy students were already locked in battle with numerous night ghosts. The ghosts weren't particularly strong, but they merged seamlessly with the darkness, making their attacks difficult to predict. Teacher Lu, the Night Ghost King escaped, one student shouted. Deal with the rest first, Lu Chongyu said grimly, eyes narrowing as the thick night concealed everything. With their combined effort, the remaining night ghosts were soon wiped out. What happened? Lu Chongyu asked with a dark expression. We underestimated the Night Ghost King's strength, one student replied. He's at least at the arcane immortal stage. We couldn't stop him. Perhaps we should question the Lu clan, another suggested. They sheltered the night ghosts. They must know something. Lu Chongyu hesitated, then shook his head. No. Return to the academy, he said finally. Then, turning to Su Zimo and Xie Chonglu, he added, You should come as well. Is there more to this Lu clan than it seems? Xie Chonglu asked, puzzled. The evidence is clear. Why not confront them? Chonglu, Lu Chongyu sighed. You've been away too long, you don't understand. I shouldn't tell you this, but the Lu clan has ties to the vice-chancellor. We can't touch them. His words made everything clear. This was beyond his authority. After gathering the corpses of the night ghosts, the group set out that same night toward the Celestial Sage Academy. The Night Ghost King's escape had already alerted their enemies. Catching him again would not be easy. Leaving Azure Dragon Town, they climbed the stone steps leading up Celestial Sage Mountain. After about 10 minutes, a majestic academy appeared above the clouds. Celestial Sage Academy stood proudly at the mountain's peak. From below, it had been hidden from sight, but now they could clearly see dark energy surging up from the mountain, solidifying the very sky above. The Academy's guardian formation was active, rotating slowly. Entering through its wide gates, Lu Chongyu led Su Zimo and Xie Chonglu northward until they reached a small wooden house surrounded by pine trees. In front of the house stood an elderly man dressed in white robes, graceful as a crane. His eyes were bright, and a red mark shone at his brow. Chancellor, Lu Chongyu greeted respectfully. No need to explain, I already know, the old man said with a gentle smile, waving his hand. He looked at Xie Chonglu and Su Zimo. You wish to enter Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss? You may, but on one condition. What condition? Su Zimo asked. Draw out the evil spirit of the ghost god, the old man replied. This matter seems far too serious, Su Zimo said. We're only here to pick a stalk of 9 nether godgrass. We don't want to get entangled in the Academy's affairs. He wasn't afraid, just pragmatic. The risk and reward clearly didn't match. He wasn't here to die for the Celestial Sage Academy. Don't be so hasty. Hear me out first, the old man said with a calm smile. Beyond the mortal ascension heaven lies the ghost god heaven. There are 7 gateways between the two, and Celestial Sage Academy happens to guard one of them. If you lend us your help, we can later offer you free passage to the ghost god heaven whenever you wish to go. What level of cultivation is this evil spirit ghost god at? Su Zimo asked after a brief pause. When the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss was first sealed, it was already at the arcane immortal realm, the old man explained. After 3 million years of absorbing countless evil spirits, its exact strength is uncertain. Even I cannot say for sure, but you need not fear. This time, your only task is to draw the ghost god out. If we fail to subdue it, we're prepared to abandon the Celestial Sage Academy entirely and move on to the ghost god heaven ourselves. This path leads directly to the ghost god Collegium. If you're interested, we could even recommend you there. We'll only be responsible for drawing the ghost god out. The rest is your problem, Su Zimo said firmly. No issue, the old man replied with a smile. He extended his right hand, and a beast skin scroll appeared, rotating slowly in his palm. This is the map of Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss. It marks both the location of the 9 Nether Godgrass and the seal where the evil spirit ghost god is imprisoned. Su Zimo took the map, examined it briefly, then nodded. Qingfeng, take them to the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss, the old man instructed. A young Taoist in green robes stepped forward and gestured for them to follow. As Su Zimo and his group departed, Lu Changyu, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Chancellor, you already know about the Lu clan and the Vice-Chancellor, don't you? The Vice-Chancellor is dead. The Lu clan has been annihilated. Let this matter end here, the old man said calmly. Annihilated? Lu Changyu asked in shock. Yes, while you were ascending the mountain, the old man replied. For a moment, Lu Changyu could only marvel at the Chancellor's vast power. Though he remained within the academy, nothing that occurred on Celestial Sage Mountain escaped his awareness. It was as if an invisible hand covered the entire mountain. Do you think they can handle it? Lu Changyu asked, glancing in the direction Su Zimo had gone, his voice tinged with worry. Whether they can or not, it's come to this point, the old man said. The Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss can no longer be suppressed. Either the ghost god dies or we abandon Celestial Sage Academy. There is no third option. I understand, Lu Changyu said with a nod. Following the Taoist boy Qingfeng, Su Zimo and his companions made their way deep into the academy. There were few students about, and they passed only a handful along the way. Finally, they reached a massive gate. Evil energy swirled thickly around it, and the surrounding trees were all black, each one twisted as though it bore a ghastly, screaming face. I can only escort you this far, Qingfeng said with a smile. He waved his sleeve, and the ancient gate slowly creaked open. A flood of dense, suffocating miasma poured out from within. Qingfeng's eyes shone with focus as he raised his hand. The surrounding formation whirred to life, and beams of golden light shot forth, suppressing the rampant evil energy. Su Zimo peered through the gate. Beyond it stretched a narrow world, not vast, but dominated by a single bottomless abyss. All the black mist seemed to emanate from that chasm. So this is the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss, he murmured. Judging by its scale, it's anything but simple, Xia Changlu said in awe. The map marks 8 levels within the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss, Su Zimo explained. The evil spirit ghost god is sealed in the 8th. The 9 Nether Godgrass grows below the 3rd. The 2 of them stepped to the edge of the abyss and leapt down. The depths seemed endless. The cliffs were charred black, as though burned by divine fire. Twisted vegetation clung to the walls, some resembling man-eating flowers, others demonic vines. As they descended, countless vines lunged toward them. Xia Changliu's sword sang, unleashing waves of sword intent. The surrounding space shattered, and the vines were sliced to pieces. The farther they went, the denser the vines became, until they formed cage-like barriers. Su Zimo let out a cold snort as the nomological truth of fire burst from his body. He swept his hand, releasing a torrent of fire that consumed everything in sight. Explosions crackled like thunder through the abyss. "Careful!" Xia Chonglu shouted suddenly. From the cliff wall, a colossal figure burst forth and slammed into Su Zimo. As he was knocked back, Su Zimo caught a full glimpse of the creature. It was a massive white serpent, nearly a kilometer long and 100 meters thick. Its eyes gleamed with malice, its tongue flicking in and out, and its scales shimmered with a wicked sheen. With a sweep of its tail, the cliffside crumbled, boulders crashing into the depths below. "Kill it!" Su Zimo commanded coldly. Since his weapon, Shadow Tyrant, was still in the process of refinement, he fought barehanded. The power vortexes within his body spun violently as the heaven-shattering giant manifested behind him, towering and immense. The giant stepped on the cliff wall and struck the serpent with a thunderous palm. The white serpent roared, thrashing wildly, and hurled the giant away. But the heaven-shattering giant bellowed in defiance, charging once more, its massive arms locking tightly around the serpent's body. "Sever its head," Su Zimo shouted. Above them, countless sword lights gathered. Xia Chonglu stepped into the air, his sword god aura bursting forth. In that instant, all the surrounding sword intent vanished, leaving only a single, breathtaking streak of light. The sword flash cut through the darkness of the abyss, erasing everything in its path. The serpent's enormous head was cleaved clean off. A geyser of bluish blood erupted as its body convulsed, then plummeted into the depths below. "Help me! Please, help!" A faint, desperate cry echoed up from the abyss. But it faded quickly, swallowed by silence. "You heard that?" Xia Chonglu asked. Su Zimo nodded. He had indeed heard someone calling for help. "Keep going down," he said. "Finding the 9 nether godgrass is what matters. Whatever else happens, even if Celestial Sage Mountain collapses, it's not our concern." The two continued their descent. At the base of the abyss, a long stone platform jutted out from the mountain wall, as though it had been forged directly into the rock. Upon that platform stood a host of ghosts, grotesque, black-skinned creatures dressed in all manner of tattered garments. At their front was one bearing a long saber, its entire body shrouded in sinister energy. It fixed its gaze on Su Zimo and Xia Chonglu, then raised its arms. At once, the entire abyss trembled. The walls shook, space itself shattered, and a massive formation activated, enveloping the two of them completely. "Six-wheel ghost fiend formation," the leader shouted. All the nearby night ghosts began to howl wildly. In an instant, the entire area became deafening. Countless streams of black energy surged into the formation, sending sand and stone flying in every direction. As black mist coiled and churned, the entire formation began to operate. "It's a soul-based formation. Be careful," Xia Chonglu warned. Strange noises came from all around, whispers, screams, and murmurs invading Su Zimo and Xia Chonglu's ears from every direction. The ghosts surrounding the formation waved their weapons and shrieked, their cries amplified 1,000-fold by the formation itself. The overwhelming baleful energy crashed toward Su Zimo and his companion. "Kill!" Xia Chonglu roared, unleashing his sword intent once again. Sword light collided with countless ghostly heads formed from condensed evil energy. Su Zimo looked up at the formation and let out a cold snort. His right hand formed the Aryan swastika god seal, drawing in an immense tide of spirit energy like a whale gulping water. The giant swastika seal, thousands of meters wide, detonated at the edge of the formation. In the next instant, Su Zimo summoned the heaven derivation astrolabe. Although half the formation was destroyed by the explosion, the intricate sigils immediately shimmered and reformed the formation in the blink of an eye. To break a formation, one must locate its core, the formation's eye. That was the key. During that brief instant, the astrolabe caught the fluctuation and released a dazzling burst of starlight. "Found it!" Su Zimo said in a low voice. He gathered a surge of blade intent in his right hand, lightning essence coiling around it. Even without a weapon, his mastery of the blade Dao was enough to manifest one. A long blade of storm and thunder split the void and struck directly at the formation's eye, exploding on impact. The entire formation erupted in a thunderous blast. The night ghosts around its perimeter were torn apart by the aftermath. Only the leader, realizing the danger, leapt off the edge of the blue parasol ancient abyss and disappeared into the depths below. "Help me!" That faint, desperate voice echoed once again from the bottomless dark. After him, Su Zimo commanded sharply. The two plunged downward, wind and black mist whipping past them. After about 10 minutes of pursuit, Su Zimo spotted a valley below. Unlike the elevated platforms before, this valley sank deep into the abyss. It wasn't large, but all kinds of spirit herbs grew there. When they looked up, the entrance to the blue parasol ancient abyss was already shrouded in darkness. It felt as though something unseen was watching them from above, something far more dangerous than before. "Let's check the valley first. See if the Nine Nether Godgrass is here," Su Zimo said. Right now, he couldn't worry about anything else. The spirit herb came first. Landing in the valley, they immediately saw many corpses scattered across the ground, likely those who had ventured here for herbs in the past. Dim spirit flower, black serpent fruit, ice lotus. Xie Chongliu's gaze swept over one herb after another until it stopped on a small, black plant atop the valley. It was only palm-sized, with 9 leaves, each wreathed in dense, ghostly energy. The surrounding herbs all seemed to bow toward it in submission. "Found it," Xie Chongliu said, a gleam of joy in his eyes. "Be careful, it has a will of its own. Don't let it escape." Su Zimo nodded. A spirit herb of this level had its own consciousness. Catching it would not be easy. They hid along the valley's edge and slowly approached the Nine Nether Godgrass. When they were close enough, the two split apart, one to the left, one to the right, encircling the herb. Their sword and blade intents intertwined, forming a prison of energy that descended from above. Sensing danger, the Nine Nether Godgrass tried to flee into the void, but the sharpness of their combined intent sealed off all escape routes. Realizing it could not run, the herb turned desperate. Its 9 leaves trembled violently, and the entire valley began to shift. A flood of ghostly energy surged outward, and the corpses strewn across the valley suddenly stood upright, rotting, blood-mouthed, lunging at the two like ravenous undead. "You hold them off, I'll take the herb," Su Zimo ordered. Xie Chongliu swung his sword, unleashing a sea of sword energy that turned the surroundings into a blazing inferno of destruction. Meanwhile, Su Zimo leapt into the air, gathering spirit energy into a massive palm that covered half the sky. But the Nine Nether Godgrass wasn't ordinary. It shone with dark light and tore through the seal of that great hand. All vegetation feared fire. Su Zimo let out a cold grunt. Flames erupted from his body, setting the entire valley ablaze. "Stay!" he roared, stepping through the air with thunder and fire swirling around him as he reached for the herb. The Nine Nether Godgrass had nowhere left to run. Su Zimo's hand closed around it. "Save me! Please, save me!" The desperate cry came again, this time clearer than ever, echoing right beneath the valley floor. Su Zimo's eyes narrowed. He flicked his finger, and the ground exploded. A hidden chamber was revealed beneath the valley. Inside, a blood-soaked figure was chained to the wall, its entire body mangled and bleeding. "Help me! I'm the Chancellor of Celestial Sage Academy," the figure shouted, his voice trembling with excitement at the sight of them. "The Chancellor of Celestial Sage Academy?" Su Zimo frowned. Wasn't the old man they'd met with Lu Chongyu earlier the Chancellor? But this prisoner was drenched in blood, his face unrecognizable. "Who are you, really?" Su Zimo demanded. "Hurry! Contact the Ghost God Collegium. The evil spirit Ghost God escaped long ago," the bloody man cried in panic. "You're the Chancellor?" Xie Chongliu asked, cutting down the last of the undead before stepping closer to the chamber. "Then do you recognize me? You are?" The bloodied figure squinted at him, thinking for a moment before his eyes lit up. "You're Chonglu, Xie Chonglu, aren't you?" "It's really you, Chancellor," Xie Chonglu said, his expression changing. Sword intent flared around him as he slashed at the iron cage. A metallic clang echoed as his sword strike bounced harmlessly off the iron bars. "I'll do it," Su Zimo said. Gripping the bars with both hands, he unleashed the combined might of his heaven-shattering force and heaven-earth Dharma Codex. Power burst from within him, and with a thunderous crack, the iron bars were torn apart. "If you're truly the Chancellor," Su Zimo said as they stepped inside, "then who was that old man we met earlier at the academy?" "He's the one who impersonated me, the evil spirit ghost god itself," the bloodied figure replied. His body was bound by chains, his meridians completely destroyed. He was nothing more than a cripple now. 3 months ago, the blue parasol ancient abyss began showing strange disturbances. The blood-covered figure explained slowly. "I came here to investigate, but I didn't expect that the evil spirit ghost god had already broken through the seal. It had set up a trap beforehand and imprisoned me within it. I was careless, and now I've ended up like this." The blood-colored figure was full of regret. As Su Zimo tore apart the iron chains, the figure weakly sat on the ground. "Why did he pretend to be you?" Su Zimo asked. "Because by doing so, he could deceive the ghost god Collegium," the blood-colored figure replied with a bitter smile. "If the Academy discovered that he had broken the seal, they would have immediately sent several Grand Emperors to capture him." "Then why didn't he kill you?" Xie Chonglu asked in confusion. "My life lamp is kept within the ghost god Collegium," the man explained. "If I die, the lamp would extinguish instantly, and his disguise would be exposed. He didn't dare take that risk." The man wiped the blood from his face, revealing his true appearance. It was exactly the same as the elder from the Celestial Sage Academy. "I am Jiang Mozi," the elder said with a weak bow. "I owe you my life. That ghost god is now controlling the entire Celestial Sage Academy. I must immediately contact the ghost god Collegium. Chonglu, I hope you both can help me." Xie Chonglu said nothing. His gaze turned toward the depths above them. The path they had entered through was now completely sealed. "That ghost god brought us here. Clearly, he never intended to let us leave," he said calmly. As if confirming his words, the entire blue parasol ancient abyss began to tremble violently. Dark energy surged, black mist spread everywhere, and the sound of grinding gears echoed as if something ancient was awakening. The abyss itself began to rotate. The heavens shook, the world dimmed. Everything seemed to sink into ruin. "This is bad. The sealing formation of the blue parasol ancient abyss has been activated." Jiang Mozi's expression turned grim. "This is the same formation we once used to imprison the evil spirit ghost god. Now it intends to use the same seal against us. We must escape, or we'll never get another chance." "I'm afraid it's already too late," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. The formation's activation was incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, it had covered the entire abyss. Above them, a vast sigil appeared, inscribed with the patterns of the heavenly stars. The sigil projected an awe-inspiring radiance, sealing off every exit. "I'll give it a try," Xie Chonglu said. He stepped into the air and shot upward from the valley, his sword radiating an overwhelming aura. "Sword that tilts 10,000 miles, he roared. A boundless surge of sword intent condensed into his blade. When he swung it, a thunderous explosion erupted, shaking the sky. But the sigil did not move, it was completely unaffected. "This formation is no simple thing," Jiang Mozi sighed. "Even a saint sovereign wouldn't be able to break it." When Lord Kuei created this seal, he combined the power of the other 8 ghost gods, along with the core strength of the 9 saint sovereigns from the ghost god Collegium. Only then were we able to imprison that evil spirit ghost god. For us to break it now, it's impossible. "Then how did the ghost god escape in the first place?" Su Zimo asked. Could it have already attained the infinite Tao? Impossible, Zhang Mozi said immediately. I've never seen anyone in my life who truly reached the infinite Tao realm. If he had achieved that level, he would have destroyed the ghost god Collegium outright. Why bother impersonating me and hiding in the Celestial Sage Academy? Clearly, he still fears the Academy's power and dares not face them head-on. Hearing this, Su Zimo nodded. Zhang Mozi's reasoning made sense. Above, Xie Chonglu continued to attack the sigil again and again, but no matter how much force he unleashed, it was all in vain. The sigil was far too powerful for them to break. Meanwhile, the energies in the abyss continued to gather: gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. The 5 elemental forces each manifesting at different directions, pouring endlessly into the formation. There must be another way, Su Zimo said. For now, that's all we can hope for. Zhang Mozi sighed, clearly with little confidence. He was, after all, just a crippled man now. In this deadly place, even a single demonic vine could easily tear him apart. Su Zimo looked around. The valley had already been split in half by his previous strike. He found a relatively stable spot and sat down cross-legged. Since he had already acquired the 9 Nether Godgrass, it was time to awaken the Red Blade Bull Demon. Then he could worry about the rest. As his consciousness entered his true life world, he saw the Dragon Maiden still forging the weapon. Shadow Tyrant and the Grand Pivot Godsword were now half-fused, radiating a divine power that was awe-inspiring. The auras of blade and sword, once opposed, now seemed to be complementing each other. Wind and thunder intertwined, water and fire harmonized. The Dragon Maiden was clearly keeping her promise. She was earnestly refining the weapon. "My lord," said Paimon and the others who had been standing guard. When they saw Su Zimo, they bowed deeply. "I've obtained the 9 Nether Godgrass. Let's heal the old bull first," Su Zimo said, nodding. Seven Face nodded slightly. He took the divine grass. It even tried to flee, but with a turn of his demonic lotus, he suppressed it completely. The group approached the Red Blade Bull Demon. Without the prior torment of flame chains, the creature's massive body had already begun self-repairing, healing its injuries. 2 new horns had even grown from its head. To awaken its soul, however, the 9 Nether Godgrass alone wasn't enough. They needed other ingredients as well. Fortunately, Seven Face had everything required. Imperial Devil Flower, Purple Gourd Vine, 8 Tomb Demon Needle Fruit, Skyjade Leaf, 9 Nether Godgrass. One after another, rare spiritual herbs were tossed into the air. Flames erupted from Seven Face's hand. Wrapping all the herbs together, he was refining something. Within the blazing fire, the process was hidden from view. After a long while, he plucked a single petal from his demonic lotus and cast it into the flames. At once, the fire surged violently, transforming its shape again and again, sometimes like a deer, sometimes like a beast, leaping and running wildly. After 3 minutes, the flames gradually died down. Floating in the air was a thick, translucent liquid, shimmering faintly. "This is the Heaven Demon Tear," said Seven Face with a smile. "It has immense restorative power for the soul." The Red Blade Bull Demon lay atop a stone tablet. The Infernal Archon guided the liquid, letting it flow gently into the creature's mouth. Instantly, a vast surge of demonic energy burst forth from the bull demon's body. That aura was overwhelming, bestial, ancient, and mighty. Within it, faint sounds of deep, resonant mooing could be heard. Lines of molten cracks lit up across its body, glowing like rivers of magma. Flames erupted from its skin, and from its 2 great horns, a terrifying force exploded outward, lifting its colossal body into the air. Within the demonic aura, the phantom of a bull demon faintly appeared, as if awakening from an ancient age, stepping across mountains and rivers, carrying a weight of overwhelming suppression. "My lord, step back," Paimon warned. Moments later, a thunderous explosion rang out as the demonic energy in the sky erupted completely. A deafening bellow of a bull resounded, echoing across the heavens and lingering without fading. The red blade bull demon was wreathed in flames, its thick hide glinting with firelight as its mane flowed with the wind. It rose into the air and roared toward the sky in fury. "Old bull, what are you raging about?" Paimon laughed. The bull demon turned, the flames in its eyes slowly calming. "Paimon, and you, seven-faced." The bull demon's voice boomed like rolling thunder, enough to rupture an ordinary person's eardrums. "How? Did you find me? Don't worry about that for now. Look who this is." Paimon pointed at Suzimo with a grin. Only then did the bull demon turn its gaze toward Suzimo. He hadn't noticed before, still dazed from awakening and surprised to see Paimon and the others. "You are?" The bull demon stared for a long time, then his expression suddenly changed. His voice trembled. "Master, is it really you?" "It's been a long time," Suzimo said with a smile. Though his memories of the past were nearly gone, this was, after all, once his subordinate. "My lord, I've missed you so much." The bull demon took one great stride forward and suddenly pulled Suzimo into a crushing embrace, tears streaming down his face. "Old bull has dreamt of you so many times. I felt guilty for years that I couldn't die alongside you back then." "Don't get so worked up," Suzimo said, struggling to break free. But the bull demon only hugged him tighter, sobbing louder. "My lord, I knew you'd return one day. All these years of waiting haven't been in vain. Cry if you must, but stop wiping your snot on me," Suzimo said, finally prying himself loose. "Now tell me, how did you end up so gravely wounded and imprisoned here? What happened back then?" "Indeed," Paimon added, "our lord remembers little of those times. We ourselves only know fragments." "This is a long story," said the bull demon. "When the Great War first began, our Lord sent us away while he alone stood against all enemies." He sighed deeply. "After the fall of the blessed epoch, we drifted through the void for ages. When a new epoch finally formed, the once great ancient demon race had already fractured. Of the 18 infernal archons, only 9 remained. Many of our kin had vanished. The few of us left followed our Lord into what would become the newly established 9 heavens." "This world?" Suzimo asked. "Yes," the bull demon nodded. "At that time, the 9 heavens had only just taken shape. The world was young, all beings striving toward enlightenment and cultivation. Through sheer strength, we quickly rose to power and ruled over vast lands within the 9 heavens." He straightened his massive body proudly. "Even the 9 ancient gods of that age dared not confront us directly. We ended the primordial era and established our own, the ancient demon era." "The ancient demon era," Suzimo murmured. "And then? How did you fall to this state?" "Ah." The bull demon sighed heavily. "After the collapse of the blessed epoch, many demons survived, but so did some of our old enemies. Because the ancient demon race grew too strong, we not only ruled the 9 heavens but began extending our reach to other worlds around it. Our enemies could only cower in hiding, waiting for their chance." His tone darkened, fury building within his words. "Eventually, those enemies allied themselves with the heavenly Tao of the 9 heavens, and together, they sought to annihilate us." "The heavenly Tao?" Suzimo frowned. "Why would heaven itself want to destroy the ancient demon race? Was it afraid of our power?" "I don't know," the bull demon admitted. "But our Lord resolved to launch the ultimate expedition, to slay old villainous heaven and create a new order." He continued, "We gathered every ally and opened the gate of ascension to heaven. Our Lord commanded me to guard the entrance. I wanted to follow you inside, but you refused. When you entered the gate, it closed immediately behind you. Then all those so-called allies turned traitor, led by the 10 bloodlines." At this, the bull demon's nostrils flared, spraying out twin streams of white mist as rage boiled in his chest. "Those 10 bloodlines were the ones we had raised to power, yet they betrayed us, working with the heavenly Tao from within and without. I was gravely wounded in the battle, and ended up like this." "What happened inside the Gate of Ascension?" Su Zimo asked. The bull demon shook his head. You forbade me from entering. You and the other infernal archons stepped through and never returned. Do you know of the heavenly court? Su Zimo asked again. The heavenly court? The bull demon snorted. They were formed by those very enemies. When the ancient demon race prospered, they began calling themselves the heavenly court, hiding in the shadows and opposing us from there. You were sealed by the ancient god Zhurong within the world of flames. Didn't you know any of this? Su Zimo asked. The ancient gods have always cared only for the heavenly Tao. They don't meddle in mortal conflict, the bull demon replied. I was unconscious after my injuries. I've been asleep since then. Whatever happened afterward, I do not know. Still, Paimon said thoughtfully, some pieces fit together. After our Lord entered the gate of heaven, he may have failed. The ancient demon race was eventually driven into the primordial demon caves, banished from the world. But too many questions remain. Why did the heavenly Tao target us? Why did our allies suddenly rebel? And what does the sealing by the ancient gods signify? One step at a time, Su Zimo said calmly. The truth will reveal itself eventually. As long as our Lord still stands, the bull demon declared, there is hope for all ancient demons. This time I, Old Bull, will follow you to the death. Whether against old villainous heaven or the heavenly court, they will face the vengeance of the ancient demon race. Enough, Su Zimo said. It's been ages since you've seen each other. Catch up for a while. I still have matters to handle outside. Farewell, my lord. The bull demon's colossal body knelt low, his voice echoing across the realm. After leaving the god world, Xie Chonglu and Zhang Mozi had searched the blue parasol ancient abyss for a long time, but found nothing. It seems we'll have to go all the way to the bottom, Su Zimo said. He turned to Zhang Mozi. You're not fit to descend right now. Stay here and search the upper levels. I'll go below with Chonglu. If anything happens, we'll come back for you. Zhang Mozi, fully aware of his weakened state, nodded without protest. At the bottom of the blue parasol ancient abyss, darkness engulfed everything. From the walls of the abyss jutted countless tree-like branches, each one crowded with crows. Their gloomy eyes glimmered in the dark, and they shrieked strangely, showing no fear of strangers as they stared intently at Su Zimo and his companion. The two of them leapt downward, plunging into the depths of the abyss. The farther they descended, the thicker the aura of evil became, an energy that ceaselessly tried to corrode their bodies. Both of them surrounded themselves with spiritual light, shielding against the invading miasma. They continued downward for what felt like an eternity until, at last, they saw rows of tombstones rising from the darkness, whereupon they landed. The place resembled a mass grave, bleak, chilling, and thick with death. Each tombstone was unmarked, nameless, with mounds of dirt as tall as hills beside them. Above, vultures circled once again, clutching scraps of bloody flesh in their beaks before swallowing them whole. Look around, Su Zimo said. Xie Chonglu nodded. The two of them began to explore among the nameless graves. After a short while, Su Zimo stopped in front of a wall. The surface was covered with countless carvings, each one the same word. Hate. Thousands upon thousands of hateful characters filled the wall, each one emanating endless resentment, as if the hatred might burst forth from the stone itself and devour him whole. He walked along the wall, and everywhere he looked, the carvings remained the same, densely packed, the single word repeating over and over. Suddenly, a loud splat sounded nearby. A vulture flying overhead was suddenly seized by a massive hand and crushed to pieces. Blood and feathers sprayed everywhere. The arm connected to that hand stretched dozens of meters long, vanishing into the ground below. Another visitor. Ha 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 ha. A strange laugh echoed through the abyss. The voice was bizarre, sometimes old, sometimes childlike. Who are you? Su Zimo asked, frowning. You may call me the old man of the abyss, the voice said slowly. As the words fell, the earth began to tremble. A long fissure split open at their feet, spreading outward like a spider web. From within it rose a head, a massive skull formed from countless smaller skulls fused together. It had innumerable eyes, mouths, and noses, a grotesque abomination beyond description. From every nameless tombstone, long skeletal arms began to emerge, as many as there were graves. Each arm stretched dozens of meters long. I have dwelled within the blue parasol ancient abyss for 100 million years. Undying, eternal, and self-named the old man of the abyss. The voice chuckled. Never heard of you, Xie Changlu said coldly as he walked over, treading the air. That's only natural, the old man laughed. Few who come to the blue parasol ancient abyss ever leave alive. In all these million years, only 2 have managed it. Which 2? Su Zimo asked. The ghost god Kuei 3 million years ago and his evil spirit, the old man replied. Why are you here? Xie Changlu asked. That question has no answer, said the old man. I have existed as long as the blue parasol ancient abyss itself. This place is my home. What do you want? Su Zimo asked. To make a trade, the old man said with a grin. Just as I once did with that, I can send you out of this abyss. What's the price? Su Zimo asked. Half of your god's soul for me to devour, the old man said with a sinister smile. Impossible. Xie Changlu refused instantly before Su Zimo could respond. The god's soul was one of the most vital parts of a being's existence. Even the smallest damage could cripple a cultivator's foundation. Losing half would be devastating. Such devouring caused permanent harm. No recovery or regeneration could ever fully restore it. No need to rush, the old man said calmly. You can take your time to consider. After a few tens of thousands of years trapped here, you'll be willing. I've seen many like you. Su Zimo and Xie Changlu exchanged glances. Then Xie Changlu rose into the air, his sword aura blazing around him. With a single swing, his blade split through 9 layers of the heavens, slashing downward. The old man of the abyss raised one massive arm and gently closed his palm, and the invisible sword energy was caught between his fingers. With a flick of his wrist, the sword energy was flung away. It struck the nearby wall with a thunderous bang, slicing through it as if it were made of tofu. Don't waste your strength, said the old man. You can't harm me. Unwilling to concede, Xie Changlu waved his right hand, and his sword rose above his head, glowing fiercely. Countless streams of sword energy gathered into it, shaking the very void, a blade that could pierce eternity itself. Kill! Xie Changlu shouted, charging forward with his sword. This time, the old man stretched out both arms, moving with crushing force. Dark energy surged, forming waves of shadowed power. Thunderous explosions filled the air. His palms pressed together, catching Xie Changliu's sword between them. The 2 forces clashed, sword energy and demonic miasma entwining, grinding against one another. When the power reached its breaking point, the old man swung his arms wide, hurling Xie Changlu backward. A deafening explosion followed as Xie Changlu crashed into a nearby tombstone. You can't win with brute force, the old man laughed. Half your god's soul for eternal freedom. Sounds like a bargain to me. Su Zimo smiled faintly. And why should we believe you? What if you go back on your word after taking our souls? Whether you believe me or not depends on whether you dare to gamble, the old man said. At least tell us how you plan to send us out, Su Zimo replied. That would make your story more convincing. I don't mind telling you, said the old man. After all, I'm the only one who can do it. When the blue parasol ancient abyss first formed, it was filled with countless soul-based celestial herbs. Many came seeking them, and where people gather, so do greed and war. Millions of years ago, 2 great kingdoms surrounded this place, each wanting to claim it as their own territory. They waged a great war for it. When the war ended, countless died. Millions fell into the abyss. Amid the evil energy, death aura, and resentment, I was born. I am one with the blue parasol ancient abyss itself. 3 million years ago, the ghost god, Kuei, sealed his evil spirit here. The sealing formation was powerful, but ultimately foreign to this place. I can shift the structure of the abyss and forcibly open a path outward, but doing so consumes tremendous energy. That's why I must devour God's souls as payment. Oh? So you expect us to believe you're doing this out of kindness? Su Zimo sneered. It's clear you're not that strong yourself. You know you can't defeat us, so you're using this formation to try to consume our souls. If you truly had power, why bother making a deal? Hey guys, check out my other Xianxia translation on this site as well, Shrouding the Heavens. It is considered one of the most popular fantasy Xianxia novels in China and started the entire Xianxia genre that we know of today. It is an awesome read and you guys will love it. Say whatever you like. If you don't wish to accept, then stay here as long as you want, the old man of the abyss replied. I used to have that evil spirit for company. Now that you're here, I won't be lonely. Let's go, Su Zimo said to Xie Chonglu. He turned, stepping into the air and flying back toward the valley they'd come from. Xie Chonglu hesitated briefly before following behind. You've thought of a way out? He asked. Su Yimo smiled. As long as there is a way out, that's enough. It's far better than a dead end. Then why didn't you agree just now? Xie Chonglu asked in confusion. I still have something to do, Su Zimo replied. Once that's taken care of, we can leave. Inside the God world, the fusion of the Grand Pivot Godsword and the Shadow Tyrant had already finished, much faster than Su Zimo had expected. The last time he checked, they had only fused halfway, but afterward the process had accelerated, as though the two weapons had found perfect harmony. Their laws, their souls, all had merged into one. Su Zimo wanted to see just what this new weapon had become. As for the old man of the abyss, he was not worth worrying about. When Su Zimo returned to the valley, Jiang Maji was searching around. He immediately came forward and asked, How did it go? Chancellor, have you ever heard of the old man of the abyss? Xie Chonglu asked. The old man of the abyss? Jiang Maji frowned and thought for a moment before shaking his head. No, I haven't. But when I first took charge of the Celestial Sage Academy, I did hear that there was something terrifying sealed beneath the blue parasol ancient abyss. We were warned never to provoke it. And what's that old man's intent? He says he can send us out, but only if he devours half of our god souls, Xie Chonglu answered. This, Jiang Maji hesitated. It didn't matter much to him. He was already crippled, his meridians destroyed. He no longer had a god soul to lose. But when it came to Su Zimo and Xie Chonglu, he couldn't make that decision for them. Chancellor, don't worry, Xie Chonglu said reassuringly. We have our own plan. Su Zimo then found a quiet spot, sat cross-legged, and returned to the god world. The moment he entered, he saw the dragon maiden examining a curved blade in her hand. How is it? Su Zimo asked. Try it yourself, she said, tossing the newly forged weapon, now the completed Shadow Tyrant, toward him. At first, the fusion resisted strongly, but once they were halfway merged, it was as if the two weapons resonated with each other. Even without my help, they fused on their own. Su Zimo held the blade, one hand on the sheath and the other on the hilt. With a metallic clang, he drew it. Even without using any spirit power, waves of blade aura filled the air, cutting through the void. He studied the weapon closely. Black demonic energy and violet blade light intertwined, laced with streaks of gold from the Grand Pivot Godsword. The entire blade gleamed with a dark purple bronze hue. The body was shaped like bleached bone, and its sheath was engraved with strange runes no one could read. At the hilt was carved a statue of a demonic king, and at the end, a human skull cap served as the pommel. It seemed as though countless souls clung to the blade. The entire weapon radiated corruption and darkness, saturated with demonic energy, and yet, within that darkness, a sovereign aura pulsed faintly, the majesty of a king. Along the edge of the blade, a single strand of black light shimmered faintly. This weapon, I've rarely seen its like, said the dragon maiden softly. The two weapons not only merged perfectly, But the grand pivot Godsword's power to gather the will of all living beings has been inherited as well. In its normal state, it's already terrifyingly strong. With the power of faith added to it, its potential is limitless. Su Zimo gave the blade a slight wave, and from it, a demonic figure condensed into form, the soul of the Shadow Tyrant. "Excellent," Su Zimo said, satisfied, and sheathed the weapon. "The blade is complete. Now, when will you let me go?" the Dragon Maiden asked. "You know too much," Su Zimo said, shaking his head. "So, not yet, but my god world is vast beyond measure. Spending a lifetime here isn't such a bad fate. I'd actually like to walk this land myself," she said with a faint, knowing smile. "Would you allow that?" "When the time is right, you will," Su Zimo replied. The Dragon Maiden said no more. She knew she had no choice here. Her fate was already sealed. After parting ways with her, Su Zimo sought out Paimon and the others. By now, the myriad beast realm had grown immensely powerful. Not only did it include countless dragons, but also the 10 god beast races of the primordial heartlands and many rare monsters. Su Zimo had kept the myriad beast realm hidden from the world. It was now located deep within the most dangerous forbidden region of the god world, a place no being, not even the strongest, could reach. If the tribe were to suddenly appear, it would surely cause panic. After all, this world was still too young, its people too weak, while these beasts were far too strong. But now, the Shadow Tyrant required an endless supply of the will of all beings. Su Zimo planned to stage a play, and the myriad beast realm would take part. After a few whispered instructions, Paimon nodded. "The strongest beings in this world are only at the God Meridian realm," he said. "They haven't even reached immortality, much less emperorship. Chaos should be more than enough." Su Zimo nodded slightly. The god world's time flowed differently. Its ratio to the 9 heavens outside was 10-1. Since its creation, thousands of years had passed. Most inhabitants weren't particularly strong. Only the top tier had reached the peak of the God Meridian realm, standing on the edge of becoming emperors, a feat still immensely difficult. The god world was divided into 4 massive regions: the northern frontier, southern sea, western mountains, and eastern tombs. In the western mountains, the skies were perpetually shrouded in mist. The land was filled with forbidden grounds and rarely trodden by humans, though rich in natural treasures. At that moment, a small group of adventurers moved cautiously through the dark, damp forest. "Big brother, look! A blood spirit mushroom!" cried a thin-faced man with sharp eyes. He carefully plucked a crimson fungus that looked as though it had been dipped in blood. "Keep your voice down," warned the middle-aged leader at the front, his expression grave. "This is the dark forest. Don't alert the big ones." "What's there to fear?" the sharp-faced man said dismissively. "Those fools don't dare come here, saying it's too dangerous. They leave all this fine treasure untouched. Bunch of idiots." The words had barely left his mouth when everyone suddenly froze, faces tensing. "Did you hear that? Sounds like footsteps." The ground began to shake. From the far side of the forest, a colossal shadow emerged, Chaos, lumbering slowly toward them. "By the heavens! What is that monster? Run! Run!" The group fled in panic, crashing through the undergrowth, while Chaos followed at an unhurried pace, as though enjoying the chase. Outside the western mountains stood the largest and most prosperous human city in the region, Ancient Moon City. Spanning 30,000 square miles, Ancient Moon City was a hub of activity where no commoners could be found among the travelers coming and going. Its towering walls rose into the clouds, as hard as iron. On both sides of the city gate stood 2 enormous mechanical beasts, the guardian constructs of Ancient Moon City. That day, the sun shone bright, the wind was gentle, and the people went about their daily routines as usual. Then the ground began to tremble. A deep rumbling sound echoed from the distant horizon. The guards on the city wall looked westward, and there, a colossal shadow emerged. The monstrous figure of Chaos appeared, radiating an overwhelming aura of ascension that churned across the heavens. Look, what is that? Someone shouted in horror. A beast attack. Prepare for battle. Quick, activate the guardian beasts. By the time the group of adventurers reached the city gates, ancient Moon City was already under full alert. Open the gates. Let us in, they cried out. Did you bring that beast here? A voice thundered from atop the wall. Just open the gate first. We'll explain once we're inside. The adventurers pleaded anxiously. They turned to look behind them. Chaos's immense form was already closing in. No, your identities are unknown. You can't be allowed in. The guard on the wall refused coldly. We'll deal with the beast first, then arrest and question you afterward. As he finished speaking, Chaos's towering figure arrived. The adventurers cowered in terror by the base of the gate, trembling. Chaos was nearly as tall as the entire city wall. Its massive head spewed waves of heat like fire as it glared down at ancient Moon City. The two mechanical guardian beasts roared and lunged forward to attack. Chaos raised its claws. Bang! Bang! With two effortless strikes, it smashed both guardians deep into the ground. Impossible! What kind of monster is that? Someone shouted in disbelief. Hold the gate! Roared the city lord, the first to regain composure. He began issuing commands, rallying everyone to defend. Ancient Moon City was the largest human settlement in the Western Mountains, home to many cultivators, including powerful recluses. Chaos extended its right claw and slammed it down on the city wall. Boom! The impact nearly toppled the structure, leaving a massive cratered claw mark. Countless attacks rained down like a storm of arrows and energy blasts, but Chaos didn't even flinch. It merely tilted its head and let out a thunderous roar, instantly stirring violent winds and lightning. Let me handle this, a voice shouted. An elderly man stepped forward, hands crackling with thunder. He wore a black and white robe, his arms skeletal, his face thin and dry as old wood, yet his aura was fierce and boundless. Thunder Palm Zhou-Mo, someone exclaimed. Zhou-Mo once hunted down the four great fiends. His lightning stretched over 3,000 miles and struck them all dead. If anyone can deal with this, it's him. Zhou-Mo stepped into the air, locking onto Chaos's eyes. His right hand surged with violet lightning. Die! He shouted, hurling a torrent of thunder straight into Chaos's face. Lightning exploded before the beast's eyes. The eyes were the weakest part of any living creature. That was Zhou-Mo's reasoning. But Chaos didn't even blink. It stood still, unbothered as the lightning burst against it. Then, the thin, translucent wings on its back stirred gently. A single flap released a gust so powerful that it sent Zhou-Mo hurtling through the air. What? Everyone inside the city looked at one another, frozen in fear. Chaos resumed its assault on the wall. Panic spread within ancient Moon City. Even its steel-like defenses wouldn't hold much longer. Then, suddenly, a brilliant sword light cut across the sky. The sword aura split the heavens in half, cleaving through the firmament and striking Chaos squarely. The explosion of sword energy echoed across the land, leaving its mark upon the earth. As the light faded, all eyes turned upward. From the distant horizon, dozens of figures soared forth on flying swords, each robed in white, their sword intent interwoven like a storm, their bearing noble and ethereal. It's the people of Sword Heaven, someone cried out from the wall. We're saved. Sword Heaven is the strongest sect in the Western Mountains. Their sword sovereign, In Ruochu, is one of the 6 greatest masters of our age, the legendary 6 sovereigns. Yes, the 6 sovereigns are the mightiest of all, each one at the peak of the God Meridian realm. Excitement rippled through the crowd as hope returned. The Sword Heaven cultivators descended, swords gleaming. At their head stood In Ruochu. He wore a sword robe woven with yin and yang, his long black hair streaked with white, falling neatly behind him. The sword beneath his feet glowed with black and white light, like a living yin-yang symbol. He moved through the air in flashes of light, waves of sword energy stirring the heavens. In an instant, he arrived before ancient Moon City. Greetings, Master Een of Sword Heaven. The people of ancient Moon City bowed deeply. The 6 sovereigns were living legends. Reverence for them was only natural. Een Ruochu gestured for them to rise. A Sword Heaven disciple stepped forward, pointing his sword at Chaos. Beast, you stand before disciples of Sword Heaven. Name yourself. Why do you invade ancient Moon City? Chaos lifted its head, eyes burning with thunder, and let out a low laugh. I'm not here to conquer a single city, it said. I'm here to rule the entire world. Arrogant cur, the disciple snapped, raising his sword to strike. But Een Ruochu raised a hand to stop him. Ming'er, stand down. Een Ruochu's gaze darkened as he studied Chaos. The pressure emanating from the beast was immense, waves of power that battered the air like crashing tides, shaking the very void around them. That force carried the unmistakable weight of immortal might. Within its form, power gathered and flowed like a complete world unto itself, simple yet infinite. Even Een Ruochu, who had seen much in his long life, could not discern the creature's origin or true cultivation. But one thing was clear: the pressure it exuded surpassed even that of his fellow sovereigns. Which ancient beast are you? Een Ruochu asked solemnly. He had traversed half the god world but had never encountered such a being. There's no need for talk, Chaos said coldly. Today, ancient Moon City will fall. From here, the entire god world will burn. As it spoke, Chaos roared. Bolts of thunder erupted from its jaws, lashing toward Een Ruochu. Sword, come! Een Ruochu commanded softly. A tide of sword intent flooded the sky, shattering the thunder into fragments. He drew his sword and turned to the others. Stand back. This battle is mine alone. The disciples hesitated briefly, then obeyed, retreating behind the walls of ancient Moon City. Spirit convergence, Een Ruochu shouted softly. At once, a thin film of spirit power enveloped his entire body. That aura swirled around him, fusing with the sword in his hand. In that instant, sword and heart became one. The blade moved as he willed. Sword of demon subjugation, Een Ruochu called again. The long sword shot into the air, bursting forth with dazzling sword light as it slashed toward Chaos. This sword is called Demon Slayer. I forged it over several years, using celestial wood as its guide and profound heaven-heavy iron as its core. Clang, clang, clang. A few sharp metallic sounds rang out as the blade struck Chaos, sending up a shower of sparks. Flames filled the heavens, burning wildly across the void. Chaos swung down a massive claw to crush the sword. But the sword moved with extraordinary agility, darting through the void, crossing the sky. Chaos roared in anger, unleashing a surge of overwhelming force. That power descended, pressing the sword down from the air. Myriad swords formation, Een Ruochu cried again. The sword in midair began to tremble, splitting apart into countless fragments of sword intent. The entire sky was suddenly filled with countless blades, tens of thousands, stretching endlessly. As Een Ruochu waved his right hand, the swords moved with his mind, their intent shining pure. Every single blade turned toward Chaos, erupting with a brilliance that pierced the heavens. A rain of swords fell from the sky, each one slashing into Chaos's body. Behind it, the creature's massive blood-red wings began to flap furiously, stirring up sand and storm as it took flight. That monstrous body swooped down toward Een Ruochu. He did not flinch. With a cry of, "Heavenly Sword!" the Demon Slayer divine sword returned to his hand. Stepping through the air, he thrust the blade into one of the beast's wings. But Chaos's defenses were astonishing. It spat thunder, wore fire like armor, and its eyes burned like meteors, charged again more violently than before. The 5 forms of Forgotten Sword, Een Ruochu said, his sword drawing a half-circle and spinning a flower of light in his palm. First form, the pine that defies the cliff. He stood firm, sword raised, like a pine rooted in the depths of the earth, or a lone tree clinging to a cliff, unshaken by storm or fear. Small as he was before the beast's colossal frame, each of his movements rang with unyielding strength. When the two collided, his sword intent blazed forth, yet he did not move an inch. Second form, the dance of Luan and Phoenix. Inruachu shouted again. His stance became fluid, like the celestial Luan bird gliding through the void, or a phoenix spreading its wings in vivid life. Balancing on one foot, the other raised, his robe billowed in the wind. His black and white hair flew loose. The sound of his sword was like a phoenix cry, and from its tip, a fiery phantom bird soared out. The fire phoenix illuminated half the sky, striking chaos square in the abdomen. Yet Inruachu did not stop. Third form, riding the wind, carrying the moon. His body turned faint and illusory. The wind of heaven seemed to gain awareness, flowing along unseen paths. He followed the wind, felt the wind, became the wind everywhere and nowhere at once. From the tip of his sword, gentle breezes gathered into violent gales, carrying with them the soft glow of moonlight that strikes sliced through the horizon, cutting across chaos's surroundings. At that moment, the creature could not resist at all. It was utterly suppressed by Inruachu's sword forms, unable to counterattack. Master In, well done. Capture this monster. Let ancient moon cities might be known. From atop the city walls, the watching crowd cheered with joy. Fourth form, the sword that crosses the abyss. The long sword erupted again, its might soaring like a rainbow. It became a dragon of the underworld, summoning thunder and storm. That dark dragon coiled around Chaos's huge body, binding it tight in a torrent of draconic power. Now all four forms as one. Fifth form, the crane among ancient branches. At that moment, Inruachu's figure multiplied into countless copies. It was as though innumerable Inruacus stood across the heavens. Each stood with precision in the poses of soaring cranes, aligned to the 8 directions, the 6 stratagems, the 2 principles, and the 4 symbols. Chaos was trapped at the center, surrounded by a sea of Inruacus. Thousands of sword tips gleamed, all pointing toward it. A single command resounded, "Strike!" And in that instant, all Inruacus thrust their blades toward the center. All swords returned to one, all rivers to the sea. Everything dissolved into stillness at the center of that circle. The void collapsed, the heavens shuddered, the air warped, an endless sword intent filled all of creation. Countless streaks of sword light slashed across the firmament. When the sword intent finally exploded through the void, all of Inruachu's phantom bodies vanished within it. Only one true figure remained, walking calmly across the air, sword sheathed, back turned to Chaos. Behind him, the space where Chaos stood shattered. Its massive body fell. Boom! It hit the ground, carving a vast, bottomless crater. Inruachu slowly turned and gave a faint smile. This beast was powerful, yes, but too heavy, too slow. His attacks were far too simple. The sword arts of sword heaven prize clarity of heart. Only with deep inner strength can one truly command the sword to subdue demons. That is our foundation. He was about to leave when suddenly, from the depths of the crater, a deafening roar echoed. A surge of celestial energy burst upward. Thick, black spirit power poured out of the pit as a massive claw gripped the earth's edge. Chaos hauled itself up once more. Its fur had turned a dark purple-brown. On its swollen belly, a black vortex split open, bottomless, swirling with deep crimson light. Within that vortex brewed an immense, terrifying power. When the energy peaked, a flood of red light burst forth. Inruachu's face changed in shock. He raised his sword to block, but the crimson torrent devoured him whole. Master In! Cries rose from the city. Countless figures rushed toward the red surge. But it was too late. When the flood subsided, Inruachu's frail body fell from the sky. "Do not kill him, just instill fear," said a calm voice. Chaos, ready to strike again, halted midair. Suzimo stood in the void, blocking its path. Inruachu, after all, was one of the few true prodigies left on the god world. If he died, it would be a loss. Su Zimo sought only the grand pivot godsword, not the destruction of the god world. From within the city, several cultivators flew out to catch In Ruochu's falling body. He was gravely injured, his breath faint. "Do not fight it head-on. Do not," he managed to whisper before fainting. Chaos rose to its full height, its massive head looming over ancient Moon City. It spoke coldly. "From this day forth, this city belongs to me. You are all my slaves." In the sky, Su Zimo looked on and said evenly, "The western mountains are enough for now. Next time we move on the northern frontier, the southern sea, and the eastern tombs. I won't follow you any further from here. Be mindful of your actions," Su Zimo instructed. Chaos gave a slight nod. After parting ways with Chaos, Su Zimo returned to the Nine Heavens. Behind him, the Shadow Tyrant surged with black and violet blade aura. Su Zimo carried it across his back. At the moment, much of the Shadow Tyrant's willpower was still incomplete, something Chaos would have to help him restore. "Let's go. We'll find that old man of the abyss again," Su Zimo said to Xie Chonglu. The two of them leapt downward, diving into the depths of the blue parasol ancient abyss. Ever since the ceiling formation had been activated, the diagram above had become more and more vibrant with the energy of yin and yang. The connection between this place and the outside world was growing weaker, as though it were transforming into an independent realm. Their figures landed once again before the nameless tombstone from before. The old man of the abyss appeared immediately. The ancient head gazed upon them, his countless arms crawling with black crows and vultures. It seemed those creatures were his pets. "So, have you two thought it through?" the old man asked with a smile. "Send us out," Su Zimo said flatly. "As for payment, is sparing your life enough? What the hell are you saying?" The old man's eyes narrowed, his tone turning cold. "My patience is limited. Don't waste my time. Send us out and I'll consider sparing your life." "Such a simple thing. Do you not understand?" Su Zimo asked. "To threaten me within the blue parasol ancient abyss is unwise," the old man of the abyss replied calmly. As his voice fell, the ground trembled violently. Countless cracks spread out beneath their feet. The old man's countless arms whipped around like monstrous tentacles, lashing through the air from every direction. A sinister aura spread outward, thick with the stench of death. "Well, have you two decided yet?" Su Zimo smiled faintly and snapped his fingers. In that instant, 3 overwhelming auras of primal Tao burst from the void, the pressure of Saint Sovereigns that could crush all beneath it. All the tentacles were immediately forced still under that oppressive might. Paimon, Seven-Face, and Red-Blade Bull Demon all tore through the void, stepping forth from the god world. Darkness fell across the land. The demonic energy rose high, suppressing the evil aura of the abyss itself. The 3 stood in 4 directions, surrounding the old man of the abyss like predators. "Now then, could you repeat what you just said?" Su Zimo asked with an easy smile. The old man froze, speechless. He stared at the 3 figures before him, the vast power of Saint Sovereigns radiating from their bodies. They did nothing, merely stood there. Yet their presence alone filled him with unbearable pressure. It was said that the mortal ascension heaven had only one Saint Sovereign, Brahma, a being unseen for countless ages. But now, with 3 Saint Sovereigns standing before him, he truly understood what it meant to be overwhelmed. Who are you people?" the old man of the abyss asked, his voice trembling. "That's none of your concern," Su Zimo said. "Sending us out is your only choice. You can't kill me. If I die, you'll never have a way out," the old man quickly said. "This seal was created by a Saint Sovereign as well. If we pooled our strength, we could break it. We've just been too lazy to bother," Su Zimo replied calmly. "Now I'll give you a chance to live. Send us out, and you'll keep your life." "How can I trust you? What if you go back on your word?" the old man asked. "As you said yourself, believe and there's a chance to live. Don't believe and death is certain," Su Zimo replied evenly. Hearing that, the old man of the abyss fell silent. With such power before him, fighting was impossible. All he could do was find a way to survive. Well, have you decided? Don't waste our time, Suzimo said quietly. Fine. I'll send you out, the old man finally said. But in return, I'll tell you a secret. What is it? Suzimo asked. Do you know why ghost god Kuei sealed away his evil spirit here instead of destroying them? The old man said. Suzimo frowned slightly and shook his head. In truth, he didn't particularly care. The evil soul is part of Kuei himself. If it dies, he dies as well, the old man explained. So he trapped it rather than kill it. You understand now? Yeah, whatever. This has nothing to do with me. Just send us all out, Suzimo said. The old man of the abyss looked upward. Around him, waves of evil energy surged forth. As more and more of it poured out, the entire blue parasol ancient abyss began to spin. All around, the landscape distorted, demonic mist rose to the heavens, and flocks of ravens screeched as they circled in madness. Open, the old man bellowed. Countless tentacles stretched toward the sky. The great yin-yang diagram radiated with power, rippling violently. The wind howled. The black fog thickened. The heavens took on the aspect of doomsday. With a thunderous rumbling, a crack tore open in the yin-yang diagram, a thin rift glowing faintly within the darkness. Go! I can't hold it much longer, the old man shouted. Paimon, Seven-Face, and Red-Blade Bull Demon all stepped through, returning to the god world. Suzimo and Xia Chonglu rose into the air. Before leaving, Xia Chonglu grabbed Jiang Maji with one hand and followed behind Suzimo. The yin-yang diagram was surging with endless storms and sealing energy. Suzimo's shadow tyrant cleaved through the raging winds, his body cutting forward like a ship against the tide, charging straight through the rift in the diagram. The void before them shattered, as if a barrier had been split apart. Once they broke through the formation, Suzimo felt a rush of freedom. Even the air itself seemed fresher. Down below, the blue parasol ancient abyss had been in eternal darkness, choked with evil mist. Now, with sunlight pouring down, Suzimo found himself almost dazed. Xia Chongliu's figure appeared behind him soon after. He looked around. They had emerged at the same spot where Qingfeng had led them in before. Looking down, the blue parasol ancient abyss below was in complete upheaval, more violent than ever. Chancellor, what will you do now? Xia Chonglu asked Jiang Maji. Though I've escaped, I've lost all my cultivation. Facing that evil spirit directly, I have no chance of victory, Jiang Maji replied. For now, I must find a way to contact the ghost god Collegium. Suzimo glanced at him and said after a pause, I've no interest in the affairs of your Celestial Sage Academy. Saving you was already a mercy. Didn't we plan to go to the ghost god heaven? Xia Chonglu said beside him. That evil spirit's promise clearly can't be trusted. We might as well help him contact the ghost god Collegium, and as payment, he can use the Celestial Sage Academy's teleportation array to send us to the ghost god heaven. You just want to help your alma mater, Suzimo said with a smile. It's a win-win. I'm only making a suggestion. The choice is yours, Xia Chonglu replied. Suzimo thought for a moment. He did indeed need to go to the ghost god heaven. If he didn't use the teleportation array of the Celestial Sage Academy, it would take much longer to find another way. He turned to Jiang Maji and asked, How can we contact the ghost god Collegium? Between our Celestial Sage Academy and the ghost god Collegium, there is a formation wall, Jiang Maji explained. Normally, if we write on that wall, the people of the ghost god Collegium can see it. But that evil spirit also knows of it. I'm afraid it keeps watch there constantly. We'll need to distract it first. I'll draw its attention, Suzimo said. Chonglu, you take the Chancellor and send the message while you have the chance. That evil spirit was deeply tied to many things. If what the old man of the abyss said was true, that the evil spirit and Kuei were one, and that one could not die without the other, then Kuei would do anything to protect the evil spirit. Suzimo didn't want to bother with all that. All he needed to do was lure it away. This was something best handled by the ghost god Collegium itself. After a brief discussion, Suzimo set out alone. The Celestial Sage Academy was desolate now. As he walked, he could barely see a single student. Judging from the Academy's vast grounds, it must once have been glorious. But ever since the real Chancellor had been trapped in the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss and the evil spirit had taken his place, decline had set in. Step by step, Suzimo reached the courtyard where he had last seen the old man, the evil spirit. The old man stood before the house, holding a broom, calmly sweeping fallen leaves. He looked serene, almost immortal, no trace of malice could be sensed. Suzimo's footsteps echoed. The old man slowly raised his head, a brief flash of surprise crossing his face. "We meet again," Suzimo said, leaning against a nearby tree with a smile. The old man said nothing, merely staring quietly. "Didn't we agree that you'd help lure the evil spirit? Why didn't you come?" Suzimo asked casually. Still, the old man remained silent. "I've already contacted the ghost god Collegium," Suzimo said with an easy grin. At once, he felt the weight of killing intent. The world seemed unchanged, but the air turned frigid, suffocating. Even the sunlight seemed to dim. "If you were lucky enough to escape with your life, you should have left Celestial Sage Mountain quietly," the old man said softly. "Why come back to stir the waters? I was nearly trapped to death in the Blue Parasol Ancient Abyss. How could I not come to return that favor?" Suzimo smiled. He slowly drew the blade from his back. As the Shadow Tyrant emerged, demonic aura surged skyward, tearing at the void. The air trembled around him. "Young men never understand, only true pain breeds fear," the old man said, flicking his wrist. The broom in his hand shot toward Suzimo. Suzimo met it head-on. His blade gleamed with cold light as he swung. Clang! The broom was split cleanly in two. He stepped forward, right foot stamping the ground, blade angled toward the old man as he struck. The gray-robed elder's aura flared. Spirit power gathered in his right hand, condensing into a glowing sphere. The sphere collided with the Shadow Tyrant, but the blade's sharpness was beyond his expectations. It shattered the energy ball and sliced clean through his hand. "A fine sword," the old man murmured in admiration, leaping backward. His robe billowed as wild demonic energy erupted skyward. The severed arm regenerated before Suzimo's eyes. Only then did Suzimo see his true form. The old man was gaunt to the bone, his body wrapped in the oversized robe that had hidden his grotesque frame. Beneath his neck, thick blood-red veins bulged, throbbing as if they would burst through his skin. He opened his mouth. Inside was red, thick fluid and rows of razor-sharp teeth. Dropping to all fours, he fixed his gaze on Suzimo like a predator eyeing prey, then lunged, faster than lightning. Suzimo sidestepped, letting the creature rush past. As they crossed, his blade swept horizontally. Slash! The Shadow Tyrant cleaved the old man clean in half. Black blood sprayed across the ground. But even halved, the old man didn't die. His upper and lower halves split apart, moving separately to encircle Suzimo. Both halves charged. Demonic energy surged. The upper body opened a gaping maw, while the lower body's clawed feet glinted like blades. Both attacked simultaneously. Suzimo thrust the Shadow Tyrant forward, impaling the upper body's mouth, then spun, kicking the lower half away with a single powerful strike. The two halves fell apart. Black blood pooled across the earth as the old man collapsed, writhing. Suzimo lifted his sword and advanced step by step. Just then, tendrils of black demonic mist rose from the old man's corpse, gathering above. The aura grew thicker and heavier, until the entire sky above Celestial Sage Mountain turned black, as if dark clouds weighed upon the city, ready to crush it. When the demonic energy fully manifested, the old man's body fell still, lifeless. A series of guttural, twisted screams echoed through the air. From the roiling mist, a monstrous figure emerged, Kuei, the ghost god. Though this was only her evil half, she was identical to the true Kuei in form. What surprised Suzimo most was that Kuei was a woman. She wore a gray, tight-fitting chest wrap, her pale shoulders glowing faintly. Gray ribbons wrapped around her clothes in countless layers. Behind her grew more than 10 gray-white tails, each lined with swirling fur. Her hair floated upward, each strand shaped like a miniature tail. On her chest bloomed a black flower of demonic energy, a flower that pulsed with evil, destruction, and bloodlust. Her eyes were pitch black, and she stared at Suzimo in silence. With a motion of her right hand, a lotus of death bloomed in the air above Suzimo. Within it, countless crystalline shards formed, each as sharp as an arrow. Kuei waved her hand. The crystalline arrows rained down. Suzimo leapt back, retreating fast, but the barrage was endless. Each shard that struck the ground corroded everything it touched. His gaze hardened. He surged into the air, Shadow Tyrant cutting downward like a torrential river toward Kuei. She raised her other hand and struck. Boom! A tremendous force wave exploded outward, sending Suzimo crashing to the ground. Her many tails lashed, surging with demonic power as they struck toward him. The tails were thick and furred, sweeping through the air like whips. One tail came straight for him. Suzimo caught it with one hand, but it flung him upward, hurling him into the sky. Then all the other tails followed, more than 10, coiling around him, binding his arms and legs. They pulled tight, trying to tear him apart, as if to rip his body limb from limb. The dozen tails continued to pull and tear violently. Bones cracked and popped around Suzimo's body with sharp crack-crack sounds. His eyes were cold and focused. With a roar, he reversed his grip, seizing 2 of the tails in his hands and yanking them upward with immense force. Inside his body, billions of heaven-shattering power vortexes spun furiously, flooding his limbs and bones with power. The shadow of a colossal heaven-shattering giant flickered faintly behind him. With another shout, Suzimo flipped in midair, swinging Kuei's evil spirit form up and over. The 2 of them collided and grappled through the void, hurling each other again and again. Their terrifying auras clashed and burst apart in the air like falling comets. Behind Suzimo, the Shadow Tyrant unsheathed itself, erupting with a surge of demonic blade intent. It sliced through the air, severing the many tails that bound him. Both combatants separated quickly. Kuei's long hair billowed behind her, her 10 fingers dancing in midair like a musician playing an unseen instrument. Countless tiny lights appeared in the air around her, densely packed and radiant. In an instant, those points of light transformed into orbs of energy, beams of condensed power forming a rain of light cannons. The bombardment came down in torrents, covering the entire sky around Suzimo. The void trembled and shattered. Everything within its range collapsed into nothingness. Suzimo pressed his palms together. A dark light surged from his body. 10 forms of demon, first form, realm demon. Those who see gods within illusion lose all stability of mind. Around him, countless black lights appeared, a mirror reflection of Kuei's own attack. The void itself seemed to mimic her technique, replicating her countless beams of energy. The 2 barges collided midair with thunderous explosions. Shock waves rolled outward, engulfing the entire Celestial Sage Mountain. The mountain trembled violently. Midway down its slope, the whole peak split in half, like a massive tree bending under unbearable weight. When the last of the explosions faded, there was little left of the Celestial Sage Academy. The mountaintop was barren, devastated beyond recognition. Kuei's eyes glimmered like twin moons. Her pupils narrowed into slits as she prepared to strike again, but she seemed to sense something below. Her gaze turned toward the underground chamber, the place where the formation wall stood. She roared in fury and dove downward toward it. Suzimo stepped through the air and intercepted her, smiling. "What's the rush? Finish our fight first." Kuei glared at him, rage boiling in her dark eyes. With a furious scream, she charged again, completely losing control. Her tails lashed, her floating hair spread like wildfire, and her gray robes whipped in the wind. As she ran, her body suddenly split into two forms. One shone with holy light, rising into the sky, its voice echoing in the heavens, a song-like chant, sacred yet twisted with demonic tone. The other form was pure sin, the embodiment of darkness itself. Rivers of the yellow springs flowed around it, the air thick with death, as it lunged toward Su Zimo. "Be careful. That's Kuei's ultimate technique," Jiang Maji shouted from below. "One form is the dirge of heaven, the god's lament. The other is the passing of death, impermanence's end." Hearing this, Su Zimo's expression grew serious. The radiant form continued to chant, its mournful cry resonating through the sky, as if heaven and earth themselves were grieving. It was a spiritual attack, aimed at his very soul. Black rain began to fall from the heavens. Each drop that touched Su Zimo's body turned into tangible force, assailing his spirit. At the same time, the dark form, like the embodiment of death itself, lunged straight at him, trying to merge with him to consume him entirely. "Don't worry about me. Just contact the ghost god Collegium," Su Zimo called out. "There's a barrier in front of the formation wall," Xie Changlu shouted back. "It needs to be broken first. We're almost there. Just hold on." Sword energy blazed around him as his sky sword struck the barrier again and again. Visible cracks were beginning to spread across it. As the two spectral forms attacked, Su Zimo activated his 9 Revolutions God Tower physique, a supreme physique that defended the soul. No spirit assault had ever pierced its 9-fold barriers. With his soul safeguarded, he focused his blade on the dark form before him. The hellish apparition was relentless. No matter how many times Su Zimo slashed it apart, it reformed instantly, like water, impossible to cut no matter how sharp the blade. "Fire!" Su Zimo shouted. The essence of flame gathered in his right hand, coating the shadow tyrant in blazing light. He swung, igniting the dark figure in roaring flames. But even fire couldn't destroy it. The entity charged through the inferno, desperate to devour him. "Myriad trees ascend," Su Zimo commanded. The nomological truth of which surged outward. Emerald light filled the air as colossal trees burst from the ground. Their trunks twisted together into a living cage, trapping the dark form within. But the creature opened its massive maw and bit through the trees one by one with snapping crunches. Evil energy spread as it broke free again, charging straight toward Su Zimo. He frowned, glancing at Xie Changlu and Jiang Maji still working to break the barrier below. His patience ran thin. "Go help them," he said, hurling the shadow tyrant downward. The sentient blade turned into a streak of endless sword energy, slashing toward the barrier below. Raising both hands, Su Zimo muttered quietly, 10 forms of demon, 8th form, sun demon. Those who block the demon's path are bound as its kin." Between his palms, a blazing sun took shape, a true miniature star of light and heat. It was as if he had plucked the sun itself from the heavens. The brilliance engulfed him completely. Its radiance burned through the sky. The searing sunlight incinerated the void, and the heavens turned crimson as the descending sun crashed down. Everything beneath it was reduced to ash. The dark figure screamed but could not resist. In the face of absolute power, it was utterly annihilated. "It's open," Xie Changlu shouted from the hall below. Beyond the shattered barrier, a translucent wall of air appeared. On it floated countless glowing characters, suspended in the void. Jiang Maji sliced open his palm and pressed his blood-stained hand against the wall. "What is it?" A vast, ancient voice boomed. Before them, a spectral image appeared, a projection from another world. "The evil spirit has escaped," Jiang Maji cried. At his words, the projection burst apart, vanishing instantly. At the same time, the formation wall began to tremble and activate. An overwhelming force swept across the land, sealing everything within 100 miles of Celestial Sage Mountain. Moments later, countless ghostly shadows descended from the heavens. Through them, figures emerged one after another, beings stepping across worlds. arriving from the ghost god Collegium. Thunder rumbled through the sky. Seeing this, Kuei's evil spirit screamed in fury. Her roar shook the heavens, her rage surging higher and higher, as the power of her malice grew ever stronger. Su Zimo shrugged. He looked toward the beams of light filled with ghostly shadows. From within, 6 figures walked out, an elder leading the way, followed by 5 young men and women. Each had striking eyes and sharp brows, their presence radiant and commanding. Most importantly, the aura of power surrounding them was enough to make anyone tremble. They all wore gray robes, each robe marked with a ghost's head on the chest. Lord Nocturne, Jiang Mozi shouted in greeting when he saw them. Elder Nocturne lowered his head, frowned slightly at Jiang Mozi, and asked, "How did you end up like this?" "I was ambushed by this evil spirit," Jiang Mozi replied with his head bowed in shame. "The Academy entrusted you with such an important mission, yet you've failed," Nocturne said indifferently. "When we return, you will accept your punishment yourself. With my body ruined as it is now, what face do I have left to return to the Academy?" Jiang Mozi sighed. Once, he had been strong enough to contend with the Kuei itself, but now he was little more than a cripple. The bitterness and humiliation in his heart were things only he could truly feel. Hearing this, Nocturne's expression softened slightly. Then he turned his gaze toward the sky, shouting, "Evil Kuei, surrender yourself. Today, we of the Ghost God Collegium have descended. There's no need for futile resistance. Where is Kuei? Why doesn't he dare face me himself?" The evil Kuei hissed, her voice raspy and cold. "Ghost God Kuei is occupied with greater matters," Nocturne said flatly. "We are more than enough to handle you." The evil Kuei let out a sharp snort. The dozens of tails behind her stood upright in the air like pillars piercing the heavens. Su Zimo smiled faintly and stepped back. The situation no longer required his involvement. This was now an internal affair of the Ghost God Collegium. With a roar, the evil Kuei lashed out, her tails whipping forward like lightning. Nocturne's gaze hardened. "Form the primordial yellow river formation," he commanded. The 5 disciples behind him leapt into the air. One of them held the primordial yellow river diagram, a relic ranked 46th among the Grand Thousand Treasures. As it unfurled, magnificent rivers and mountains shimmered upon its surface. The flowing waters and towering peaks seemed almost alive, as if ready to burst from the painting itself. That disciple stood at the center, lifting the primordial yellow river diagram high above his head as radiant light streamed from it. The other 4 took positions according to the 4 symbols. Azure dragon, limbs drawn together, swimming gracefully through the air. White tiger, bearing fangs and claws, roaring at the sky. Vermilion bird, spreading wings like a soaring crane, 1 foot poised in midair. Black tortoise, a fusion of turtle and serpent, waves rising in its wake. The 4 sacred beasts stood in formation, dragon roaring, tiger bellowing, bird crying, and tortoise stirring. The 5 surrounded the evil Kuei. Nocturne strode through the air, his momentum blazing like a falling sun. "Calamities gather. Let all ghosts retreat." With a shout, black spirit power erupted beneath his feet. The yellow river diagram expanded, covering 100 meters of ground. Standing atop it, Nocturne stamped down as a pentagram glowed beneath him. He rapidly formed seals, countless runes flying forth and merging into the yellow river diagram. Primordial, everlasting, all things in harmony. Yellow river commands, purge evil, banish corruption. Seal. His voice rang out firm and resonant, echoing endlessly across the heavens. The primordial yellow river formation activated. Thunder and wind roared. The skies darkened. The heavens themselves changed. The evil Kuei, trapped inside the formation, struggled and howled furiously. Her power surged like a tidal wave, shaking the world. Yet no matter how she fought, it was futile. The 6 held their positions, their bodies radiating the phantom might of the 4 symbols, all power channeling into the array. The Kuei's tails lashed toward them, But each time they neared, the pentagram blazed, striking them back like lightning. "Lightning, descend!" Nocturne bellowed. He pointed toward the heavens, and thunder exploded. Bolts of lightning tore through the darkened sky, drawn into the formation. Each strike infused with the yellow river diagram's might, terrifyingly precise and merciless. The evil Kuei scrambled to evade, her movements frantic, even desperate. But she could not escape. Several bolts struck her directly. Her flesh split open, her screams echoing through the mountains. "This formation's power perfectly restrains her," Xie Chonglu observed. Chancellor Jiang Mozi added grimly, "Lord Kuei designed it specifically for this evil spirit. The last time she was captured, the same formation was used." "The same trick twice?" Su Zimo said with a faint smile. "That's boring." All eyes turned back to the sky. Countless thunderbolts rained down, burying the evil Kuei completely. Even a rat would have died a dozen times over under such an assault. When the thunder finally ceased, the sky above the formation had been ripped apart. The land was scorched and shattered beyond recognition. The evil Kuei lay within the ruins, weak and motionless. Nocturne straightened his posture and drew from his robe a long iron chain. The chain gleamed blood-red, dozens of meters long, writhing like a living serpent. "Bind!" Nocturne commanded. The chain shot forward, winding toward the evil spirit. Seeing this, everyone let out a collective sigh of relief. Once the evil spirit was captured, their mission would be complete. Just as the chain brushed her skin, the once weak evil Kuei suddenly erupted with violent energy. She seized the chain and opened her jaws wide, swallowing it whole. "Careful!" Nocturne shouted. He raised his hand toward the sky again. "Endless lightning! Heed my command!" Thunder crashed down even fiercer than before. The evil Kuei laughed maniacally. "Kuei and I are one. How dare you try to kill me? Rather than be imprisoned in the abyss for countless ages, I'd rather perish with you all." As her words fell, her tails and floating hair radiated waves of dense, chaotic energy. Her entire body shone with blinding light. She seemed the very center of existence, blazing with terrible brilliance. "What is she doing?" someone asked in confusion. Everyone stared blankly. Even Nocturne froze, unsure for a moment. Then realization struck him like lightning. His face turned pale as he shouted, "No! She's using the formation's power to break Lord Kuei's seal and force herself to self-destruct." Everyone's faces changed drastically. All within the Ghost God Collegium knew that the evil Kuei's meridians had been sealed. Even if she wanted to die, she could not. That seal had been set by the true Ghost God Kuei himself. But now, her madness, her willingness to burn herself away, left everyone terrified. If she succeeded in detonating herself, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Stop her! Quickly!" Nocturne roared. "How do we stop that?" someone shouted back. Panicked? None of them had ever faced something like this before. "Deactivate the primordial yellow river formation. Don't let her absorb more power and break the seal," Nocturne shouted. "But if we shut down the formation, she'll escape," one of the disciples warned. "We don't have time for that. Quickly, retract the primordial yellow river diagram," Nocturne ordered. The disciple holding the diagram raised his hands, golden spirit power flowing as he grabbed the glowing scroll spinning in midair, trying to pull it back. The evil spirit Kuei, seeing this, lunged toward him. "Stop her!" Nocturne barked. He rushed forward to block her path. While the other four maintained their four-symbol stances, their combined power surging once again. Thunder roared across the heavens as the divine beast's energies intertwined, surrounding her. At that instant, the evil Kuei suddenly threw her head back and let out a piercing roar. A wave of holy light burst from her body. "Not good!" Nocturne shouted immediately, his face paling. "It's heaven's lamentation." But it was already too late. The sound rippled through the air like a stone dropped into still water, sending shockwaves and ripples across space itself. Everyone's souls trembled. Their minds went blank for an instant. It lasted only a few seconds, but that brief delay was enough. The disciple holding the yellow river diagram was struck by her tail and sent flying, blood spraying as he fell, completely defenseless against the blow. Seeing the young man's body crash to the ground, Nocturne cried out. But he had no time to check on his disciple. The evil Kuei's self-destruction was already at its limit and could no longer be stopped. "If there's another life after this," the evil Kuei screamed, "then that coward Kuei will be my first prey. I will not accept this fate." As her voice echoed, the light around her grew unbearably bright. The power of her self-detonation reached its peak. "Lord Su, please do something," Jiang Mozi cried from below, his voice filled with panic as he looked to Su Zimo for help. "Relax," Su Zimo said with a small smile. "She can't blow herself up." He looked up toward a corner of the sky. At first glance, it seemed normal, but upon closer inspection, there was a faint, shadowy darkness cast across the heavens, like something immense was blocking the sun. As the explosion began, a pair of enormous black hands descended from the sky. The hands looked as though they were carved from dark jade, smooth, translucent, and radiant, every line and vein upon them visible. They carried an irresistible power, sweeping downward and enveloping the entire area around the evil Kuei. In the next moment, time reversed. The flow of heaven and earth bent backward. That entire fragment of space began to rewind. The explosion reversed itself, the blinding light dimmed, the chaos receded, and the evil Kuei's energy quieted completely. This is... Jiang Mozi stammered, too shocked to form words. Even though the true body was unseen, the power radiating from just those hands was enough to make one's soul tremble. "It's Kuei," Su Zimo said casually, stretching lazily. "You guessed right. Think about it, if your life were at stake, would you really entrust it to someone else?" From the moment the formation was activated and the ghost god Collegium descended, Su Zimo had sensed a hidden, overwhelming presence watching from afar. If Nocturne and the others succeeded, all the better. If not, then the real Kuei would certainly intervene. After all, the Kuei and his evil spirit were one. How could he possibly stand by and let his other half perish? Jiang Mozi turned to Su Zimo, realization dawning on his face. He had been too naive. At the very least, that ghost god is a saint sovereign. Paimon's voice echoed from the god world. "Saint sovereign or not," Red Blade Bull Demon snorted, "if he dares offend our lord, I'll rip him to pieces all the same." Su Zimo chuckled. Above, the giant black jade hands twisted reality itself, reversing the explosion. The evil Kuei's self-destruction failed completely. "Kuei, you dare show yourself!" The evil Kuei howled, her voice laced with rage. "What's wrong? Too ashamed to face me after your cowardice?" But the true Kuei said nothing. The massive hand simply swept over everything, wrapping around the evil Kuei's body. With a single motion, both vanished from the world. "I'll take her with me," a deep, ethereal voice said. "You all may return and report." "Yes, Lord Kuei," the others shouted, immediately kneeling in reverence. As the presence faded, Su Zimo thought, for a moment, it looked directly at him before disappearing. But that fleeting connection was so subtle he couldn't be sure. When the hand vanished, Nocturne and the others descended back to the ground. Kongda, the injured disciple, was being supported by two of his companions, his condition dire. "Lord Nocturne," Jiang Mozi said quickly, bowing as the group approached. "Pathetic," Nocturne snorted coldly. "Yes, yes." Jiang Mozi lowered his head even further, not daring to argue. "The Celestial Sage Academy no longer has a reason to exist," Nocturne said curtly. "Count how many disciples remain. Those who wish to leave, let them leave. The rest will return with us to the ghost god Collegium." Though his tone was cold, Nocturne still showed a trace of responsibility. He wasn't abandoning them outright. Jiang Mozi nodded quickly, then pointed toward Su Zimo and his companion. "Lord Nocturne, if not for these two, we never could have contained the evil spirit." I wouldn't have even been able to contact the Academy. I promised them they could accompany us to the Ghost God Heaven. The Ghost God Collegium's affairs don't require outsiders, Nocturne replied flatly. If you didn't let outsiders help, Suzimo countered, you wouldn't have handled it at all. Nocturne's eyes narrowed sharply, his stare fixed on Suzimo. After a tense silence, he finally said, very well then, bring them along. With that, he turned and swept his sleeve, leaving without another word. Sigh, you shouldn't have spoken up, Zhang Mozi said quietly. Why not? Suzimo asked. Lord Nocturne's status in the Ghost God Collegium is extremely high. Offending him is unwise, Zhang Mozi explained. If he says something, just let him. It's not worth the trouble. You think he'll try to take revenge? Suzimo asked with a grin. Even if he won't, his students might, Zhang Mozi said simply, unwilling to elaborate. Suzimo smiled faintly, patting Zhang Mozi's shoulder. That's why Celestial Sage Academy fell into ruin. You spent too much time kneeling and worrying about the opinions of nobodies. Zhang Mozi started to speak, but the words died in his throat. The formation wall of Celestial Sage Academy had been damaged. It was the same wall Nocturne and his group used to descend. Now, to return to the Ghost God Heaven, it would need to be repaired. That wasn't Suzimo's concern. The Ghost God Collegium would handle it. It would just take some time. While they worked, Suzimo found a quiet spot and let his consciousness return to the God world. By now, chaos had already left the western mountains and begun wreaking havoc across the northern frontier. Across the God world, a ferocious beast rampaged freely, spreading chaos everywhere, seeking to dominate the entire world. Heading north, it crushed everything in its path. From ancient Moon City onward, dozens of cities had already fallen to its onslaught. The news had spread across the continent, becoming more exaggerated with every retelling. Many paid close attention to the beast's movements, and it was said that an allied force, gathering the world's strongest cultivators, was forming to destroy it. But Suzimo felt no concern. None of the so-called strongest on the God world could rival chaos. As long as chaos didn't grow careless, it wouldn't fail. Upon returning to the God world, the first thing Suzimo did was cultivate. He had made progress in understanding the Tao of Zhurong, the Way of Fire, but still felt there was something missing. Hidden within the void, he sat before the grand Tao itself, drawing on its power to deepen his insight. It took over half a month for the formation wall to be repaired, but at last the people of the Ghost God Collegium completed their work. When Suzimo finally opened his eyes after those 2 weeks, a wisp of black flame flickered in his pupils. He exhaled slowly, releasing a breath of pale vapor. If one could see within his body, they'd find a black flame burning deep inside, shaped like a human, curled upon itself, silently nurturing and growing. The Tao of Zhurong had begun to take form. The northern frontier has already fallen under Chaos's rule. Paimon reported the moment Suzimo awoke. Let it continue, Suzimo replied calmly. Without enough suffering in the world, his own appearance would lack impact. Leaving the God world behind, he rejoined the Ghost God Collegium's group, now ready to depart. Besides the 6 who had descended from the Academy, about 20 surviving students from Celestial Sage Academy chose to accompany them to the Ghost God Heaven. Before them, the surface of the formation wall shimmered with countless glowing symbols. Nocturne stood at the front, waving his hands in intricate patterns. The characters moved, aligning into new configurations. As his hands grew faster, the energy radiating from the wall surged stronger and stronger. At last, a massive beam of light shot skyward, vast and boundless, filled with tremendous force. In the heavens above, the beam tore open a passage. Clouds and winds churned as the very sky trembled. Let's go, Nocturne said, stepping into the formation first. The rest followed closely behind. As soon as Suzimo entered, a powerful suction seized him, pulling him inward. Roaring winds and shattering spatial walls filled his ears. It wasn't as painful as when he'd crossed from the primordial heartlands through the 9 heavens, but it was still far from gentle. Without a certain level of cultivation, traversing worlds like this was impossible. Though the ghost god heaven was said to be only one heaven away from the mortal ascension heaven, the true distance spanned tens of thousands of miles, practically unreachable. Their journey through the void was monotonous but swift. In less than 7 days they arrived. Su Zimo remembered that when Nocturne and the others descended before, it had taken only a few seconds. Clearly, the formations were not the same. The ghost god heaven was a strange and mysterious world, because it had no sun. Yes, here it was eternally night. Not the pitch-black kind where one couldn't see their hand before their face, but a heavy, oppressive darkness, like a world forever shrouded beneath storm clouds. Legend said that ages ago, the primal god race of the grand desolate heaven and the spectral ghost race of the Mirage Tides heaven fought a great war here. The cause and details of that war were long lost to history, but what was known was that the battle of ghosts and gods utterly destroyed the ghost god heaven. Even the sun itself was said to have fallen during that war, plunging the world into endless shadow. Though the gods and ghosts had long departed, their traces still lingered everywhere. Suddenly, the void before them rippled. In the blink of an eye, everyone appeared in a wide-open plaza. They had arrived within the ghost god Collegium itself. Lord Nocturne, honored seniors, you've returned, greeted a student standing nearby, one of those assigned to guard the formation wall. He wore a gray robe, his hair black as ink, and his eyes entirely black, no white at all. Nocturne replied coldly, giving a curt nod before striding off, leaving only a short command behind. Take Kongda to be treated. Xian Ming, you handle the Celestial Sage Academy group. Yes, my lord. Several disciples replied immediately. Once Nocturne disappeared from sight, Xian Ming turned toward the newcomers. He was the same young man who had embodied the black tortoise among the 4 symbols earlier. The students from Celestial Sage Academy, newly arrived, looked around curiously. Everything about this place was new and strange to them. Even Su Zimo observed with interest. The sky above was thick with black clouds, heavy and oppressive, as though a giant blade hung suspended over their heads, pressing down with invisible weight. The ghost god Collegium was vast. They could only glimpse part of it. Its architecture was grim and eerie, black eaves, grotesque carvings. Even the iron gates exuded a menacing aura. All around hung countless bronze bells and statues, half divine, half demonic, stood watch in every direction, sacred yet sinister. The trees were gray-black, twisted, and claw-like, radiating a strange evil. Follow me, Xian Ming said evenly. He led them down a side path beside the plaza, and the group followed. These trees are called ghost trees, Jiang Mozi explained to his students as they walked. Because this world has no sunlight, most plants can't survive. Only those that require no light can grow here. Chancellor, one of the students asked, since we've come here, does that mean we're now part of the Ghost God Collegium? The Ghost God Collegium was the most powerful and revered institution in the entire Ghost God Heaven. For the survivors of Celestial Sage Academy, joining it would mean they finally had a home, a powerful backing. Huh? What are you talking about? Xian Ming sneered ahead of them. Do you think just anyone can enter the Ghost God Collegium? This place stands above all others. Only a 1 in a million genius is qualified to join. It's not a place for useless trash. You? The Celestial Sage students glared, fury flashing in their eyes. But none dared strike first. They could only clench their fists and glare in silence. What's wrong? Still not convinced. Xian Ming said, smirking. I'll give you a handicap. You can use only one hand, and all of you can come at once. If you manage to land a single hit, I'll apologize. So what do you say? Want to give it a try? Everyone, calm down. Jiang Maji stopped the crowd, quickly stepping forward. The Celestial Sage Academy was originally a branch of the Ghost God Collegium. We are all connected by the same lineage. We should coexist peacefully. A lowly branch student dares to talk to a main academy disciple like this? Besides, Now that the evil spirit has been destroyed, your branch exists in name only. Xian Ming replied coldly. Just take the Ghost God Collegium's entrance test honestly. If you pass, consider yourselves lucky. If not, leave as soon as possible. Is that Lord Nocturne's order? Zhang Maji asked angrily. What? You think something this trivial requires Lord Nocturne's attention? Xian Ming sneered. I am a disciple of the Ghost God Collegium. I only descended to the mortal ascension heaven to guard the evil spirit. After all these years, even if I have no merit, I've at least worked hard, Zhang Maji said. Now that I've returned with my students, I'm not asking for great training resources. But surely the academy won't deny us a place to stay. If your cultivation were still intact, your words might carry some weight, Xian Ming chuckled. But look at you now, barely able to stand on your own. What more can you demand? At that, Zhang Maji froze. He realized he had thought things too simply. In his current state, he truly wasn't much different from a cripple. You can insult us if you wish, but to insult our chancellor is going too far. The students of the Celestial Sage Academy were furious, glaring at Xian Ming. We'll challenge you, they shouted. Before Xian Ming could reply, a lazy voice sounded from the side. Little Xian, bullying the new juniors again? Everyone turned to see a young man in a white robe descending the stairs. A 3-foot-long green sword hung at his waist. His black hair was tied with a cord, though a few strands fell freely around his temples. His eyes were sharp like a leopard's, fierce and confident. But what drew the most attention were his hands. Both palms were crimson, as if they'd been burned by fire. His blazing red hands were impossible to miss. Senior Fei Lin, Xian Ming stammered, greeting him awkwardly. He quickly explained, What juniors? They're just people from below. Below, Fei Lin said with interest. After thinking for a moment, he continued, Ah, from the Celestial Sage Academy, right? Yes, Xian Ming nodded. And I wasn't bullying them. They're the ones who challenged me. Is that so? Fei Lin laughed. Well, since there's a challenge and I do enjoy a good show, how about I act as referee? Don't worry, I'm always fair. What do you think? Do I have a choice? Xian Ming sighed helplessly. Nope, Fei Lin said with a grin, patting his shoulder before turning to the others. What about you all? You and our chancellor can be the referees. One of the Celestial Sage students suggested. Fine by me, Fei Lin replied cheerfully. Let's head to the battle arena. I'll gather a few more people to cheer for you. New juniors challenging their seniors. This is going to be fun. As Fei Lin walked off, Xian Ming shrugged, giving the Celestial Sage group a mocking look. Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go. Zhang Maji sighed, stepping up to Su Zimo and speaking quietly. These students are still immature. If things get serious, I ask that you look after them. Man, you've been kneeling to others way too long, Su Zimo said. There's a time to kneel and a time to draw your blade. But they've been standing too straight. There's a time to stand, and a time not to, yet they always stand. Zhang Maji said nothing. Sometimes weakness forces you to bow your head. Between dignity and survival, life always comes first. As the saying goes, as long as the green hills remain, there will be firewood to burn. But as a chancellor, he couldn't help but feel he had failed his students. The group arrived at the battle arena. The so-called battle arena was a sunken valley, its floor paved with smooth black thunderstone. Suspended above it hung a massive azure dragon blade. The blade looked as if it were sculpted from stone, but the tail of the weapon was wrapped around by a long azure dragon. That dragon wasn't carved, it was real. Someone had killed a living dragon, sealed its intact body, and fused it into the blade. That level of skill was beyond imagination. Judging from its weathered appearance, the platform was likely ancient. Around it stood numerous statues, fierce, unmoving figures with expressions like wrathful Vajras and enraged deities. The Buddhas here look hateful, one Celestial Sage student muttered. When dealing with evil, Buddhas take on fierce forms, Jiang Maji explained. Compassion is for the good. To suppress wickedness, one must appear terrifying. Xian Ming leapt down onto the platform. Beside him stood a massive red drum, draped in crimson silk that fluttered in the wind. He grabbed the drumsticks and struck the drum heavily. Boom! 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 The sound echoed through the entire academy. Half the Ghost God Collegium students were drawn by the noise. Who's fighting now? Another duel. I heard from Senior Faline that some Celestial Sage Academy people are challenging a Ghost God student. What's Celestial Sage Academy? You serious? It's one of our branch academies. Ha! A branch trying to challenge the main academy? Let's go watch. The crowd buzzed with excitement, quickly gathering around. Faline's words spread fast. 10 people became 100, and soon a large crowd had surrounded the valley. You all, come down and die, Xian Ming shouted, pointing at the Celestial Sage students. Go! The Celestial Sage youths roared back. They were all young and proud. How could they endure such humiliation? And since they had numbers on their side, fear wasn't an issue. One by one, they jumped down onto the platform, each radiating powerful spirit power. Well, looks like it's begun, Faline said with a grin, swaggering toward the edge of the platform. I, Faline, will serve as referee for today's match. Once you step onto the battle arena, life and death are no concern. The fight continues until one side yields. It will determine both victory and survival. Around them, the crowd cheered loudly, eager for a spectacle. Letting you enter the Ghost God Collegium is already an insult to us, Xian Ming said coldly, scanning the opponents before him. You're nothing but trash. I might as well clean you out myself. Who the hell are you calling trash? The Celestial Sage students shouted angrily. You know the answer, Xian Ming replied with disdain. Teach him a lesson, one student shouted. The Celestial Sage disciples exchanged a glance, their auras flaring as they unleashed their spirit power.